Good morning, good morning, good morning, amazing Law Nerd. We have a lot to talk about today. It's April 2nd. Still no April Fools here. Still no April Fools. It's not for me. Some of the legal things we talk about may feel like a joke, but they are not, in fact, jokes. We will make fun, but they are not, in fact, jokes. And today, Kouri Richins, we have a lot to talk about. Yes, we do. We have a lot of legal going on. There's a lot that we have not caught up on. And I said, we'll go back. We'll look at some of the civil stuff. Oh boy, is there a lot to look at that we have not looked at. So it's Thursday. It's April 2nd. We're going to be looking at all of the new legal woes facing Kouri Richins. She has a new court date in addition to her sentencing date in the other criminal case. Remember that one? Yeah, the fraud case. New legal date for that. Updates, some legal troubles. By some, I mean lots. There was a lawsuit I didn't realize was happening. That's how many civil lawsuits are happening. That I forgot about one entirely. How did I even forget about an entire lawsuit where Kouri is suing Katie, Eric Richins' sister, directly? So when we're talking about the civil suits, what do we have? There's a business lawsuit. We're not getting into that one today. There's some tax stuff. We're not getting into those today. Kouri sued the estate. The estate sued Kouri and others. The estate has its own probate, and Kouri sued Katie. There are four that we are going to be moving between today, and I am going to kind of footnote them that way. Kouri sues the estate case, which is like the probate. The estate sues Kouri and more. Kouri sues Katie. Those are the four we're talking about today. Yep. Nightshade said, wait, personally? Yeah. She sued Katie personally, not as the representative of the estate, not as the executor of the trust, not as the representative of the trust, personally. And that's not including, there is litigation that I am not covering that is going on regarding the trust and the kids. I might summarize it. I saw that and I was like, I do not have time to deep dive into this. So 2 suits over the estate, the probate of the estate, and a personal lawsuit. And we're gonna roll the intro. I have Fred Fuzz. We're gonna roll the intro, and I need to tell you, Law Nerds, with truly all sincerity and maybe just a little bit of sarcasm, I owe you an apology. I do. I owe you a very deep apology. And last night, when this thing struck me, I actually yelled in my office. This is also where I prepped the show. I yelled in my office, "You've got to be fucking kidding me." We're going to talk about that real quick, but we're going to roll the intro first. All right, let me know where you're coming in from, what you're drinking, because it's going to be a day, everybody. Buckle up. Let's go. Hey there. Emily, your sound, you were listening. What was I showing Dr. B in the office yesterday? I was showing Dr. B a clip of Travis because we had a bunch of senior year stuff to do last night. Yep, that's why my sound was different. Right, let's go. Hey there, I'm lawyer and legal analyst Emily D. Baker, and this is your go-to destination for live court coverage. I break down the law, the strategy, and the evidence in real time, so you know what's happening. No law degree required. So join the law nerds in the chat. They're here for the facts, not and let's get to court. Law nerds, I owe you the deepest apology. There is this, some of you are like, Emily, it's okay, girl. You don't need to apologize. I do need to apologize for this. It's a huge miss on my part. And I am so mad at myself because the fact that I did not connect these things sooner, it is a fact of this case that I did not connect. It is a fact of this case that I wouldn't say I neglected. didn't connect the dots. And I deprived us of weeks and weeks and weeks of jokes. Weeks and weeks and weeks of jokes. And I am so mad at myself because how did I miss this one detail? A detail that in my mind might change everything. Legally, no. For chat, yes. It might have changed everything. And I feel like I have deprived myself. I have deprived the chat. And I am sorry. So, when we look at this run-up of the Kouri Richins case, we have some critical dates that have connected in with other cases. We have the Banfield sentencing on May 8th. I have redubbed it International Law Nerd Cookie Day or Law Nerd International Cookie Day. We can workshop the title. It's not going to be Wet Cookie Day. That's a different thing. We're gonna leave that be. Emily, really? It's early. I know. But that's the day Kouri Richins was arrested. Her ass was arrested on May 8th. Sentencing in the Kouri Richins case is on Eric Richins' birthday, May 13th. There are so many connections back to people's birthdays and dates overlapping that I forgot to check Kouri Richins' birthday. I forgot to check. Law nerds. Her birthday's 4/20. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Her birthday's 4/20. Her birthday is 4/20. And the fact that I missed this detail for this entire case, all of the talk about the gummies, gummies after gummies after gummies after gummies, and her birthday is 4/20. How did I not even notice? Damn it! I'm so mad. So as I was looking at this, I was like, no, you've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding. It was such a fail. I'm so sorry, law nerds. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry that that Kouri's birthday being 4/20 is just a detail that escaped me. I apologize. I feel like so many more jokes could have been had before the Afro Man trial. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. I'm so sad. I'm so sad. I know. Chat is like, there's just, oh, wait. We added it. Hold on. Where is it? It should be here somewhere. I know we have it.
Emotional damage.
There we go. Stephen He on the soundboard, everybody. Stephen He. Yep. Stephen He. I am so sorry. I am so sorry that 4/20, our patron saint of marijuana, is also Kouri's birthday. Is this a US thing? This might be a US thing. The 4/20 might be a US thing. Maybe not a US thing, but it is a I don't know how you explain 4/20 being the weed day. I think people thought it was the code for marijuana in California, which it wasn't. So 4/20 is like the international, well, maybe it's just US. Maybe it's just North America. It is the weed holiday, but I don't know which code it came from because it was definitely not the code in Los Angeles. So 4/20 is the weed day. The weed celebration day. It is the day of all of the weeds. It is the weed day. All right. Either way, we, you know, I was gonna get away with murder and then I got high. I saw a lot of jokes. It's the Humboldt County area code. Is it really? That would make sense. The Jamaicans in the chat are like, no. Canadians in the chat are also like, no. So a lot of you are just like, no. We do it. We do 420. Yep. So it just really depends. Some of you are saying the Grateful Dead coined the phrase. I really don't know where the phrase came from, but I grew up in Southern California. And so my knowledge of things is just like, it just permeates the air like the marijuana. It just kind of wafts about. So 420 is Kouri's birthday. And that is a whole thing. A whole thing. So we're gonna, a lot of you have shared the origin story of 420. We're gonna come back to that. Because otherwise, thank you for everyone who shared the origin story of 420. Because I didn't know. It just, again, wafted through the culture like a Cheech and Chong song. It's just there. You just know it. You don't know how you know it. You don't know why you know it. There's things you just know. Either way, Kouri Richins' birthday coincides on with a funny weed date, and seeing that there was so much fuss about the gummies. This wouldn't matter if there wasn't fuss about the gummies, but there's so much fuss about the gummies that her birthday being 420 is just fucking funny to me. Weed thoughts that Kouri Richins' birthday is also on 420. Trish, say hi to my former hometown. It's a little grumbly and growly here in Middle Tennessee, but I hope the Gundo's doing well. And Earl Grey sounds amazing. Love El Segundo. Didn't ever leave my wallet in El Segundo. Love El Segundo. All right. Where do we start? I think we start with the overview. I think we start with an overview and then go back. I think we do that. Overview and then we'll back up. Let's do that. Let's swoop real quick into the overview of Kouri Richins. And apparently my cat has decided that he is going to bless me with all of the floof today. So if I am doing this all day, it is George. It's George. Let's swoop and do an overview of where we're at and one of the funniest things. And then we're going to get into case by case, some of the things that we need to do. Okay, let's do that. All right, law nerds, Kouri Richins has some civil stuff going on. Remember, back in the day, we started talking about the estate cases. Today, we are going to be focusing in on a handful of cases related to the estate. Kouri sued the estate sued Kouri. Apparently, Kouri sued Katie. Then there's a probate case. Those are the four we're focused on. There is still a fraud prosecution. Fraud prosecution's back in court May 8th. And let me tell you what I think is going to happen on May 8th. Are we going to be able to check in on court May 8th? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be covered. I don't know if it's going to overlap with the sentencing for Brendan Banfield, which is going to come first. Sorry, Kouri, he's taller. We're going with Banfield in the pole position on May 8th. Because here's what I think is going to happen on May 8th with the fraud case. I think they are going to talk about whether or not she is going to need new lawyers, and then they're going to push it out to the sentencing date on the 13th. I think that's all that's going to happen on May 8th. Remember, the fraud prosecution, let me just pull that up. We have the information. It has basically been in a kind of holding pattern until we are done with the murder case. And now that the murder case is over, we are going to see some movement on the fraud case. But as we look at the fraud case, it's 26 counts of fraud. mortgage fraud, mortgage fraud, mortgage fraud. Oh, wait, mortgage fraud, some more mortgage fraud, forgery, 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 forgery. And then bad checks, counts 11 through 14. Strike that, 11 through 17. Money laundering, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Would you like some more money laundering? Yes, please. 23 and 24. Communications fraud, counts 25. And count 26, pattern of unlawful activity, like all the rest of it. This is in front of Judge M. Currently, her attorneys are on this case, Nestor Luis Ramos. However, Nestor Luis Ramos indicated, well, Luis kind of indicated for all of them, that they hadn't set a contract with the county to represent Kouri on the fraud case. So they went back and forth. The judge said, can you take this case as a trailing case behind the murder case until we're done with the murder case? And Lewis reluctantly agreed that she will represent Kouri on this case to follow the murder case, but said she wasn't necessarily going to be taking care of the fraud case, that is not their particular wheelhouse. I think they are probably overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that they have to do elsewhere, and they don't have a contract with the county. Remember, the county contracts with them per each case that they take. They're not hired by the public defender's office, but they are appointed counsel by contract. They don't have a contract for this case. They've not been working on this case. They have been holding it as it follows along. It's like, fine, you can sit here, but don't get too comfortable. So I think they are going to come into court on the 8th and say, after sentencing, we are not going to be continuing forward with the fraud case, and she will need a new attorney represented. That's all I think that's going to happen. I imagine, depending on sentencing on the murder case, it will inform how the fraud case goes. And maybe Nestor and Lewis will stay on the case and be like, if she's sentenced to life without parole, are we going to just settle this case? Can we just resolve it for time running concurrent or whatevs? And obviously restitution, can we just do that? So we'll see. But they're not going to take this case to trial. So Lewis and Nestor have made that clear. They do not have time for a massive fraud case. I think we're probably all glad for that. I wonder if Ramos would be inclined to take it. I don't know how that would work contractually. Either way, I think we're going to see some just logistical conversations about the lawyers and not much else. It'll get set to the sentencing date, May 13th, and then 14th, 13th. It'll get set to the sentencing date, and then it'll go from there. That's what's going to happen in the criminal fraud case. We'll link the video where I went through all of this below. It goes much more in depth into the fraud cases, and Chelsea Barney is a kind of key victim in this case, along with some others. But this case has the opportunity for some more restitution, and it has that big pattern of criminal activity that is enhanced, almost like a RICO case, but not quite. So that pattern of behavior. So as we get into the rest of the cases, that's the overview of what's going on with the criminal case. She's going to need a new lawyer. However, that's not the only case where Kouri's going to need a new lawyer. Because all of the cases I just listed, and I'm not going to pull up every single one, but all of the cases I just listed, the civil cases, the estate cases, Kouri's lawyer withdrew on every single one. Yep. Notice of withdrawal of counsel. Comes now Randall Jeffs and Ryan Morley of the law firm Jeffs & Jeffs, pursuant to rule in Utah, Hereby withdraws as counsel for Kouri Richins and K. Richins Realty. There are no pending motions in this matter. No hearing or trial is currently set. Emily, what day did they do this? What day did all of her lawyers yeet? Well, that would be March 17th, chat. That would be March 17th. When did the verdict come in, chat? Oh, March 16th. March 16th. March 16th. The day after the verdict, all of the civil cases, her lawyers noped out. Just whoop, dip. Just dipped right out. And here's why there's nothing set on calendar. There's nothing set on calendar because most of these cases have been stayed. And with those stays, there is not a lot happening now. There was a period of time where Kouri represented herself in one of these cases and was like handwriting motions to the judge because on most of these cases, Judge M is the judge, not all of them, but most. And so, sorry, that is knocking at my door vociferously. Anyway, we will figure it out tomorrow. I wonder if I need to sign for something. Chat, give me 30 seconds. I'm going to go see if I need to sign for something. I apologize for taking a break in stream. I will be right back because I can see the delivery truck outside and I'm the only one home. Give me 1 second. All right, chat. Thank you. Let's get back to stream. Don't worry. We'll fix it in post. I am so confused. I'm so confused that clothing needed to be signed for. Emily, clothes? Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. But yes, clothing. I have a YouTube event later this month. I was just very surprised. I was like, okay. Sure. We have a graduation coming up. We have all the things. It's fantastic. All right. Law nerds. Let's get back into it, shall we? No, not pants for Bryce. Pants for EDB. It's not really that expensive of clothing. It's just surprising. But yes, we're all good. No, I saw the delivery truck. I have a camera as well. So I was like, that's definitely our delivery guy. I love our delivery folks. I know all of them, which is not a surprise to anyone. All right. Kouri's lawyers yeeted themselves on March 17th from all the civil cases. Now, there had been a period of time where Kouri was representing herself in one of the civil cases early on. In the period of time between Sky's law firm having a conflict and leaving all of the cases, because originally Sky's firm, which always sounds like Nebuchadnezzar to me, but it's not. But Sky's firm had been on all of the cases, Kouri suing the estate, the criminal case and others. And then when there was a conflict, Sky's firm bounced entirely. Kouri was representing herself, and then Kouri got new counsel that was representing her in Kouri suing the estate, Kouri suing Katie, the estate case as much as she is involved in it, and then the estate suing Kouri. All of those things. So Kouri now has like 30 days to find a new lawyer, which I think is going to be a problem. Esmeralda asked, what was the conflict? We do not know. Here is what Sky has insinuated in interviews that I have seen. Sky has insinuated that within the law firm, there was a conflict. And again, it doesn't have to be a conflict as to Sky individually, but if anyone in the law firm has a conflict with Kouri, then it can be a problem. Kouri has other cases where she owes people money, where she has mortgage fraud victims, et cetera, et cetera. So I think based on what Sky kind of talked around, there is probably someone else in the firm that is connected to or has a business interest in one of the businesses that Kouri owes money to, which is what I think we saw there. And that was all coming to light at the same time. So that's the insinuation where Sky was kind of talking around it, but it was not a conflict directly to Sky Lazaro. It was to the firm. And if there's a conflict to the firm, everybody in the firm is out. So Kouri now is going to have a hard time getting counsel in these civil cases because she doesn't have any money. So she doesn't have any money. She doesn't have any access to any money. So I don't know how she's going to maintain her lawsuits going forward. And that's going to be really interesting. So let's take a look at those civil lawsuits. I went over briefly the period of time where sorry, I got distracted. Shannon said, so drop the client who can't pay and keep the client who can pay. No. If there's a conflict between this client and that client, it's generally the newer client that the conflict is going to go out on. And it might not be a client. It might be a personal business interest of one of the other members of the law firm, their spouse or partner, their other businesses. It could be a lot of things, but whatever it was, that was the solution, and Judge M agreed. So we might end up with the connections I was making to the Sarah Boone cases like jokes not being jokes. So we might just end up back here. We might. This is docket number 522. That should tell you where we are with the Kouri versus the estate case. This is docket number 522 from June 23rd, 2024. We might end up back here. With handwritten Kouri motions. So that can happen because I don't know how she's going to hire a lawyer to handle 4 civil cases. Well, 5 with the business lawsuit that she's getting sued in. I don't know. I don't know how she's going to afford an attorney. And this is a civil case. No one's appointing her anything. She is not entitled to counsel. She didn't have to sue. But we are in Kouri versus the estate, where she sued the estate. We are hundreds of docket items in. Hundreds of docket items in. Like we are, let's see, the last one I pulled. Just taking a look at my folder. The last docket item I pulled was 681. So not only does a lawyer have to take the case, but the lawyer has to come into the case and catch up on the case by 4. That's at least Maybe Utah's different. Lawyers in the chat, legal professionals in the chat, let me know. I think that's at least a $50,000 retainer to start, if not more. And knowing she's been convicted of murder, I think that's maybe a $250,000 retainer. Because these dockets are all in the multi-hundreds. And some of them have multiple defendants, multiple plaintiffs. So just Gina said, can she withdraw her case? The one where she's suing, but she can't withdraw the ones where she's a defendant. So it's going to be a substantial retainer to get caught up on these cases with the now second set of lawyers that are out. But in those cases, there is a motion that we have not gone over, and I think I'm going to stay in the estate case first, and then we will go to some of the other cases, because we've been talking about the estate case. I just pulled up, this is Kouri suing the estate. I just pulled up the lawyers withdrawing, but there was also a ruling that came down in 2025, August of 2025, that we didn't have a chance to get to. Emily, what were you doing in August 2025? I was in Indianapolis. And then I was buffering about trying to get my kiddo at the beginning of senior year. And then we were supposed to be in trial. And now we're here. Where does the time go? We are going to cover a ruling from Judge M in the Kouri Richins sues the estate case. Let's take a look real quick at the complaint. We are not going to go through this fulsomely, to quote my friend Rick Hogue. We are not going to go through this fulsomely today because we have covered it elsewhere. We are going to overview the complaint. And then we are going to jump into Judge M's ruling because it's interesting. And then we'll jump into some of the other cases. But this is the Ray, Quinney, and Nebeker that my mind goes to the Matrix. But this is the firm that Sky works for, I believe still. This was Kouri suing Katie in her capacity as PR of the estate. So when I say Kouri sues the estate, it's separate from Kouri suing Katie personally and separate from the estate suing. So, are we there yet? Asked, why is a criminal judge handling a civil case? In Utah, there is no such thing as a judge handling just one type of case. Summit County is an incredibly small county, and the judges handle both civil and criminal docket items. In this case, I actually vibe with it. Like, it seems like a personal nightmare to me, but I actually vibe with Judge M handling all of this always. I think it streamlines things. I think you're dealing with all of the same parties, and you're dealing with a lot of the same issues that you're dealing with, especially in the fraud case. The central question in all of these cases is going to be, can Kouri even pursue this now that she's been found guilty of murder? And who's better to navigate the questions of, is there even room for her to pursue these now that she's been found guilty? I imagine a lot of them are just going to go to summary judgment motions. Also, maybe we'll have cameras in the courtroom when those things happen. But I think Judge M is really well suited, and he knows everything that happened in the murder case. So there's no worry that that lawyers are going to argue something about the murder case that didn't actually happen, because you're not pulling that shit with Judge M. So he handles civil and criminal, which I actually conferred with a Utah attorney and asked them about because it's so confusing to me. But it's not uncommon, especially in smaller jurisdictions where they just don't have that many judges. So yes, Judge M. So this is Kouri suing the estate. I'm going to zoom real quick to the bottom to remind you what date this was from, because I forgot, and it's at the bottom of their complaints. They're not stamped at the top. This was filed June 9th, 2023. This is not the same filing that kicked everything else off in the litigation of the estate. This is a different one. That is in the estate litigation. We'll get there into the probate of it all. So this one's from June 9th, 2023. Lila asked, in civil cases, there is not a court-appointed attorney. Correct. You got to mount up and ride. She was in custody when this was filed. Yes. So Kouri was in custody when this was filed. General allegations, family home. On or about November 21st, 2012, while engaged to be married, Eric and Kouri purchased, notice how they've shifted that? Eric and Kouri purchased certain real property and related improvements at the house. We now know that this was purchased from Kouri Richins. Eric and Kouri acquired the family home from Katie. Oh, Emily, keep reading. Literally keep reading. Ugh. Eric and Kouri each contributed their own separate funds to the down payment before occupying the family home, and in accordance with the agreement between Kouri and Eric, Kouri put the gas, telephone, internet, and electric utility bills all in her name. Eric was not listed on the utilities. This does nothing for me. This is not uncommon if one person's paying the mortgage and the other person is paying all the utilities, whatevs. But this is argument over the house. Upon closing the purchase of the family home, Kouri moved into the family home and Eric moved in subsequently. What, y'all moved in the same day he walked in the door? Second. From September 2013 until Eric's death, March 4th, 2022, all mortgage payments on the loan have been made from Eric and Kouri's joint account. Do we see what she's trying to argue? That this is not Eric's separate property? And this is not Eric's separate property? That this was all paid from joint funds? That this is joint property? This is the property of the estate. This is in the trust. This is trust property. It goes on to say approximately 6 months after first moving into the family home on June 15th, Kouri and Eric were married in the backyard. They resided at the home until Eric's death. Since Eric's death until her arrest, Kouri paid virtually all expenses related to the home, and neither Katie nor the estate has provided material contribution. Do we see why this was some of what they were arguing about? At trial, who paid? In addition, prior to Eric's passing, Eric and Kouri engaged a contractor to construct a swimming pool and fencing. I mean, if pool, must be fencing. They say the family home constitutes marital property. Kouri's entitled to half of all equity in the family home. Alternatively, if she is not entitled to half of all equity, she is at least entitled to half of the increase in equity value that occurred during the marriage. Then they go through the prenup. So this is what Kouri sues the estate is largely about. I'm entitled to money from the home. It goes on to say that on or about February 16th, 2021, Eric purported to assign the business interest to Eric Richins Living Trust. Notice the language, purported. To the extent such transfer was even effective, again, argument, it did not extinguish Kouri's rights in the business interest as granted in the prenup. Home, business. The business interest has since been sold to Eric's work partner, Kouri Wright. The approximately $2 million in proceeds, this is the life insurance, right? The approximately $2 million in proceeds from that sale are currently on deposit with the court. Right, the trust has it. That's the trust. They talk about the trust a little bit more. They talk about the trust assets, and they get more deeply into it. But at the heart of this, after her arrest, Kouri is seeking what she views as her share of the money. All of this is going to shift now that she's been convicted of his death. We're going to get to Slayer Statute in a bit. Eric's passing and subsequent events. Eric passed away on March 4th, 2022. At the time of his death, Eric and Kouri were lawfully married and had 3 minor children. Katie filed a petition for formal probate of will and formal appointment of personal representative on March 11th, 2022. On March 28th, 2022, Kouri filed suit against the trust, asserting her ownership interest in the family home, the business interest, and the property. See Richins versus Richins-Benson. The trust case. Different case. The court entered an order of formal probate and will and formal appointment of PR on April 13th, 2022. Katie was appointed as the PR. Kouri filed a claim against the estate on February 28th, 2023. Katie denied the claim on April 12th, 2023. Katie has taken the position that Kouri has no right or interest in the family home, the personal property, or the business. Facts. Since Eric's passing, Kouri has paid nearly all the costs and expenses associated with the family home. I don't know if that's facts. Again, this is the overview on the Kouri versus estate case from 2023. I am waiting for the judge to look at all these cases and be like, can we just put these all together, please? Can we just, because they all have similar issues. So Kouri versus the estate has been going on since this filing in 2023, has over 680 docketed items. In that time, there has been some fighting over whether or not the case will get stayed. Kouri asked that all these cases get put on pause, get stayed, pause, time out, until the criminal case was done. And the court did not grant those in the entirety. The court said, okay, you can't depose Kouri until after her criminal trial, because the deposition of Kouri, what's the deposition of Kouri going to be? Girl, you killed Eric. You have no entitlement to any of this money because you killed him. That's what the deposition is going to be. Right? So with that, we are looking at cases where there's going to be motions to terminate these cases because she was convicted. But of course, if she had to sit for a deposition prior to the criminal trial, then you would have an issue where Kouri's like, I have a Fifth Amendment right. So we have this issue where Kouri wanted the deposition stayed and the court stayed that, but the court's like, other discovery can still keep going. So the trials were paused, but not all the way paused. And yes, chat, it is going to be a problem with the financial trial still coming up because it's all interwoven. Absolutely. It's going to continue to be an issue. However, chat, just a note, if your comment has to start with off topic, it does not comport with chat rules. Thank you for staying on topic. Thank you for working with me and my ADHD. I appreciate it. It's hard. And we are juggling 4 different civil cases. It's hard to keep in my brain. So I appreciate you rocking with me and my ADHD. Thank you. So there was discovery ongoing, but not all the discovery was ongoing. But in that, there were some issues. And we're going to look at the first of numerous rulings of Judge M. Why, Emily? Why are we doing this? Purely for schadenfreude. Purely for the joy of being like, take the L. Emily, that's petty. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's petty. It's petty. And I'm here for it. Yep. Sign me up for the fall semester at Petty University. I am here to be petty. Let's go. Because take the L. Take the L. But also, I did not appreciate when we got to trial. And this is the thing about looking backwards. I did not appreciate when we got to trial that the tension between Kouri and Katie had gotten to this point because we had not checked back in on these. It's so much litigation and it's a lot to catch up on. And I didn't realize that behind the scenes, all of this was going on. So now as we are past the trial, looking backwards, I think there are going to be some dots we can connect, right? Steve Jobs said you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. Even if I had noticed that Kouri Richins' birthday was 420, until the weed gummies became such a huge deal, it's in my brain, it's not necessarily going to have that connection of holy fucking shit. Miss Ma'am up here fighting on the weed gummies, but really just ready to celebrate her birthday, right? They went to search that house. They're like, there are weed gummies all over this. There are weed gummies all over this house. Yeah, she was getting ready. She was getting ready to celebrate. Because I got high. Because I got high. Da, 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 da. Yes, right? And again, I don't have a problem with weed. I have a problem with people villainizing weed and being like, it's the gummies are the problem. Fuck off. The gummies aren't the problem. It's not about the pasta. So, there was a growing tension underlying the criminal case that I did not fully appreciate. I knew there was litigation going on, but I did not know that there had been some substantial rulings at the end of 2025 leading up to, well, summer of 2025, leading up to all of this. And so that's what we're going to take a look at now. That's what we're going to take a look at. That's what we're going to take a look at now. So, our first order of business is an order on a motion for terminating sanctions. Emily, we love motions for sanctions. Yes and no, chat, because I always get hype and then they fall flat. I get hype for sanctions. I'm like, yeah, get them. And then we get to the end of it and I go, well, where is it on the soundboard? Hold on. This is better.
Emotional damage.
The second we're looking at it going, sanctions. And the judge is like, there's not much more I can do. The way I get so mad. Look, I got gaslit all through law school. Like if you have a client trust account and 50 cents, nay, 10 cents, nay, 3 cents is set aside wrong, disbarred. And then I look at the Tom Girardi case and I look at what the fuck Alec Murdaugh is up to. I'm like, oh, okay. So you scared the shit out of all of us and didn't account for those that have no fear and didn't hold them accountable. Cool. This year, though, do you want to know how petty I got? Let me tell you how petty I got this year. When I was going through the California bar and replaying or going through my California bar dues this year because they changed the date, which also, I have been a lawyer for over 20 years. Do not change the due date. And do you know what they did that was so rude? They changed the due date. And yes, it was later, which is sure, ADHD friendly. However, on my previous due date, because a bunch of shit changed with the California bar, but on my previous due date, they weren't open for payment yet. So when my brain went, I need to pay my bar dues, I went to go pay my bar dues and it's like, it's too early. Fucker, what? What do you mean it's too early? I have been paying in this month for 20 years. And now you're going to be like, you need to wait 2 months. So on the very last day of the due date, Chris was just like, bar dues today. And I was like, shit, that's right. It was too early. How do you do that to someone? Also, when I say it was too early, my bar dues used to be due at the end of January. And now they are like by February 1st. And now they are due at the end of March. So when I went to go pay them at the end of January, you can't pay them yet. Come on. Anyway, so this year when they were asking for some of the payment to the bar programs and like, I was like, no, I don't trust y'all. I don't trust y'all to check my groceries out and get it right. No, I'm not giving you extra money to do things. I don't trust y'all to run anything at this point. So no, I'll pay what I have to pay. I'll pay what I have to pay. But also, if I can pay in March, why can't I pay at the end of January? What are we doing? Either way. So no, I was like, uncheck the box, because they pre-populate some of the stuff. Uncheck, uncheck, uncheck. Emily, how much are your bar dues? Almost $1,000. Yeah, almost $1,000. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. But I was like, nope, 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 nope. So I was so annoyed. All right. Why was I ranting about the California bar? Oh, because every time we get to sanctions, I'm just like, get it. And then they don't get it. They just want. Just want. And I end up with the emotional damage, like Stephen He says. So let's take a look at this. I know it's expensive. It's fine. It's fine. I chose it, but also just, I donate to the access to justice programs, but I am not donating to the California bar is going to do this. I don't trust your ass to do anything. Nope. Sanctions. Let's talk about sanctions. This is in Kouri Richins suing the trust. Order on motion for terminating sanctions. In Judge M.I. Trust, to give us a background. So are we going to go through all of the legal ins and outs of this? No, we're not. But we are going to go through what the court said. This was filed May 14th, 2025. Oh, is that the sentencing date? May 14th, May 13th, same. Within the same window. This matter came before the court on March 26, 2025 for oral argument on defendant Katie. And we're just going to go with Katie. At the very beginning of all of these cases, the court and counsel all indicated that they were going to call the parties by first name because everyone had Richins connected to their last name, and it got very confusing. So the court decided everyone, and the lawyers agreed that everyone was just going to go by first name, and everyone's agreed to that. So you're going to see everyone going by first name because of this. Katie's motion for terminating sanctions. This oral argument was not televised. It was just the lawyers that were there. The parties were not there. It is civil. We didn't see it. So Katie's lawyers were there. Kouri's lawyers were there. Having considered the briefs, the oral argument, the case law, the court hereby orders as follows. 1, to the extent the motion requests an award for reasonable attorney's fees and costs that Katie incurred in 1, preparing for Kouri's deposition, 2, appearing for Kouri's noticed deposition, 3, briefing the issue of Kouri's failure to appear for deposition, including both this motion and Kouri's related motion to stay her deposition, the motion is granted. They didn't file the motion to delay Kouri's deposition until after all this went down. They were sitting there in a conference room or whatever, lawyer's office, waiting for the deposition, and Kouri no-showed. Katie is awarded her reasonable attorney's fees and costs incurred for the following: noticing Kouri's deposition, preparing for Kouri's deposition, appearing for Kouri's deposition, briefing the motion to stay, and arguing the motion and the motion to stay. To the extent the motion requests further sanctions, they did ask the court to yeet the entire case. The court said no. To the extent the motion requests further sanctions, it's denied without prejudice if Kouri were to fail to appear for a deposition as noticed by Katie, or ordered by the court in the future, the court could, in its discretion under Rule 37, impose additional sanction, including but not limited to striking Kouri's pleadings, eating the entire case, striking Kouri's claims, or striking Kouri's defenses. Consistent with Rule 73, within 14 days after entry of the order, Katie shall submit 1, a declaration of fees and costs she incurred. Don't worry, we're going over that next. And 2, a proposed order. Unless Kouri objects within 7 days after Katie files the declaration and proposed order, the court, quote, will enter an order for the amount claimed. So, Kouri no-shows her depo. Kouri doesn't make a motion to delay the depo, and the attorneys argue. The attorneys argue and argue and argue about it. And get fairly snappy with each other over this. They, sorry, we are not hydrated. It is that time of year. We are, sorry, I was just typing up a message. Kouri had lawyers at this point. Kouri could have said, hey, we can't do this. Hey, we're not doing a depo. And instead, they just no-show it. Instead of filing any motions, which they then filed, they just blew the whole thing off, which cost the estate a bunch of money. That type of gamesmanship is not okay and not allowed. And so she, Katrina said, did she no-show because of the criminal trial? You can't no-show a depo. She could have filed a motion, and she filed a motion later, and she could have filed a motion to quash or delay the deposition. So there's legal process to do that, but you can't just no-show. But yes, because the criminal case was going on is why she had a good reason to not do her depo. Just file the motion. So Kouri was in lockup when she was subpoenaed for the depo, but her lawyers can bring her to a depo. They should have just filed the motion. But they didn't. So now, Katie, well, the estate has been granted attorney's fees and costs for all of the above. So Katie files the notice, and then in August, we get the order on attorney's fees and costs. We're going to take a look at that order now, because this is the underlying tension that's leading up to Katie going into trial to testify. Ruling and order on attorney's fees and costs. Before the court is defendant Katie's motion for attorney fees. And mind you, this is the estate. This is not Katie asking personally. Through which defendant requests $70,350 in attorney's fees and $300 in costs, the filing fees, for a total of $70,650. Having considered defendant's declaration, plaintiff's objection, plaintiff being Kouri, and defendant's response, the court grants defendant's request for attorney's fees in part and denies in part. Let's see what in part means. Defendant is entitled to recover reasonable attorney's fees and costs after oral arguments, and this is all Judge M's ruling, after oral arguments on defendant Kouri Richins Benson's motion for terminating sanctions, the court ordered defendant to be awarded her reasonable attorney's fees and costs incurred for the following: noticing the depo, preparing, appearing, briefing, and then briefing the additional motions. We just went over that. This order is consistent with Rule 73, where a party fails to attend a deposition, quote, any party may file a motion for sanctions under paragraph B. Rule 37D. Under Rule 37B, the court may impose appropriate sanctions, which include attorney's fees. The work performed in the time billed by defendant's counsel is reasonable with notable exceptions. Plaintiff asserts over $70,000 in attorney's fees that defendant incurred. Or plaintiff asserts that the $70,000 in attorney's fees that defendant incurred are not recoverable as they are unreasonable, excessive, abusive, and are not reasonable, and not a reasonable fee for the legal services provided. Defendant argues that plaintiff, Kouri, failed to identify particularly problematic entries that are unreasonable. Defendant also argues that the trust case is materially different and requires far more time and attention than the other two cases, and that the deposition preparation and motion briefing were both complex and required a significant amount of time. Different cases, different problems. The court is persuaded by defendant's argument. Defendant Katie. Right. When evaluating the reasonableness of a request for an attorney fee, courts are to evaluate several factors, and then the court goes through that. The court goes on to say in a footnote that no objection is made to the hourly rates of the attorneys listed at $300. That is not an unreasonable attorney fee. That's not crazy attorney's fees. Let's see. We're going to skip through the court citing the law. And the court says here, defendant Katie for the estate. So here the estate provided a log, it's big, it's heavy, it's wood, of the relevant attorney's fees, which included a description of the work done, time spent, rate, and amount billed. Defendant estate also provided a declaration by the attorney stating that based on his knowledge and experience, and given the nature and scope of the lawsuit, he believes the services described above, number of hours spent and those on those services and fees were reasonable and necessary. So when we get to the end of this, Emily, how much does the court award? The court goes on to talk about plaintiff real quick. Plaintiff fails to point to specific entries that are unreasonable. Instead, plaintiff, Kouri, argues that the award should be near what was awarded in other cases, which we're going to go look at, which was $5,683. Spoiler, there's another case. As defendant has not explained why the fees are so much higher in this case. They did, though, in their motion. Plaintiff, Kouri, relies on generalized objections, noting that, quote, a review of the time log submitted shows that multiple attorneys logged whole days at a time drafting the motion in this matter alone. That multiple conferences in excess of 3 hours each were spent discussing the argument section of the reply memorandum. However, defendant estate, that the motion for terminating sanctions was primarily drafted regarding the trust case as it had the most complex issues. And it was then tweaked for use in 2 other cases, which means the billing goes to this case, not the 2 other cases. Because today we're handling 4 different civil cases. 3 of them are intertwined in this issue. Indeed, it appears that defendant spent roughly 54.5 hours drafting the initial motion, with 42.7 hours attributed to this case, 7 to case ending 019, and 4.75 to case ending 230. The court finds the total amount of time drafting to be reasonable and the allocation between the cases to be reasonable in light of the parties' claims. You can use it in other cases. It has to be modified, but the bulk of the work was done in this case. But the court finds other time entries to be excessive. First, plaintiff's counsel time entries related exclusively to conferencing about the motion, which amounted to 7.75 hours, are excessive. Second, plaintiff's counsel time entries on 2/10/2025 are excessive. There are 3 entries for that day from different attorneys. The last entry, the court says, is to draft reply in support of motion. The court finds these entries to be unreasonably duplicative and inefficient. You can't just run up your fees and charge them to someone else. So, Emily, what's the order? Here we go. Defendant Kouri Richins Benson for the estate is granted in part. The work performed is reasonable and recoverable, except for 7.75 hours related exclusively to conferencing about the motion. So the talk time, not it. Defendant is awarded $66,000 in attorney's fees and $300 in costs. So put it on the bill. Put it on the bill, Kouri. Attorney's fees in the amount of $66,000 for no showing a deposition. So when is Kouri going to sue these lawyers? I don't know. But I imagine that at some point we're going to see Kouri turning around and suing the lawyers, saying that she was in custody during this period of time and they should have filed a motion objecting to her deposition. Because obviously. So I think we're going to see Kouri sue them. $66,000 in just this case for no showing. There's more in the other case. Terry said, can you start civil cases while in custody for murder? Yep. Yeah, she can. I mean, it would be handwritten. But yeah, I think she actually might, depending on what happened, she may have actually adequate grounds to sue her lawyers for not objecting and just no showing the depo. Because now it's cost her $66,000. Well, more than $66,000. This is more on the lawyers because it's not up to Kouri to file that motion. She's in jail. So when the lawyers get noticed of her depo, they need to talk to her about it. And then they need to say, we're going to file this motion to quash the subpoena or to delay your deposition or whatever. Because I think that was served during the period of time when she had counsel. And if that fell through the cracks, that's on them, not on her. So we might see her suing the lawyers on that. But who knows? You can't get, you're not going to get money out of a stone. So where are you going to get this money from? And that's why in some of these other cases, you're seeing other individuals roped into those cases. But $66,000 in this case, but that's not all. Because this is just Kouri suing the estate. And that case is still substantially paused at this moment, but that's going to change. Sarah asked, does she have counsel for the civil cases? We talked about it a bit at the beginning. She did have counsel for the civil cases until the day after her conviction. And then they yeeted off of all of the cases. So at the moment, no, Kouri does not have counsel for the civil cases. At the time this was going on, she did. She does not at the moment. So there's that. So in Kouri versus the estate, she owes over $66,000, $66,300 for no showing the depo. And they are 600, almost 700 docket items in, and she doesn't have a lawyer. This is her choosing to sue the estate. That is one of many. So when we look at the estate case, where are we with the estate case? In the estate case, we're over 400 docketed items. The most recent thing that happened in the estate case was one, her attorneys yeeted out of the estate case. And two, there's an order on a motion for sanctions. And we're going to have to take a look at that order on a motion for sanctions. We need to go through that. So this is the case that's probating the trust and the will. So probate, estate case, Kouri sues estate sues Kouri, Kouri sues Katie. Those are the four we're doing today. Order, none of these cases are consolidated at the moment. And they have different parties and some slightly different issues. So let's take a look if we would like at the moment. On the other case, the probate case, on Judge M's order on motion for sanctions from April 10th, 2025. Oh boy, April 10th, 2025. This is, you can tell by the heading of the case, this is in the matter of the estate of Eric Richins. Order on motions for sanctions. Again, we're referring to the parties as Katie and Kouri. Katie is going to be the plaintiff in this circumstance. Kouri is going to be the respondent or the defendant in this circumstance. To the extent the motion requests an award of reasonable attorney's fees and costs that have incurred in preparing for Kouri's deposition, appearing for Kouri's deposition, briefing the issue of Kouri's failure to appear, and then the motions that came after it, because this happened in all three cases. They noticed Kouri's deposition for Kouri suing estate probate, estate suing Kouri. They noticed it in all three. And so the bulk of the energy was in Kouri suing the estate. And so that's where we see that biggest award of sanctions. But there are sanctions in other cases. And that's what we're looking at now. Katie is awarded reasonable attorney's fees and costs for the following, same as the last suit. Noticing, preparing, appearing, and then briefing the fallout afterwards and arguing the fallout afterwards. And then the court noted basically the exact same thing. If this happens in the future, then there can be much stricter penalties there. So that was ordered. Counsel was there April 10th. So the question is, what's the order on attorney's fees? Let's go take a look at the order on attorney's fees as we are zooming through the estate case before we get to the Slayer motions in the other case. So let's continue. Where is my gavel? In the probate case. Order awarding attorney's fees and costs. On April 10th, the court granted Katie's motion for sanctions related to Kouri's failure to appear at deposition. This order is also May 14th. So all these orders came down the same day. So Kouri, all on one day, got all of these. All the same day. Well, her attorneys did. They had to make that phone call. In this case, Katie filed the fee declaration. The court approves Katie's fee declaration. The court orders Kouri to pay Katie $8,387.50. Who's keeping a tally? $66,300 and now $8,387.50. We got one more to go. We got one more case to go. So in the estate case, in the probate case, Kouri owes over $8,000 in attorney's fees and costs for no showing the deposition. Vexatious Parrot, this is a great question in the chat, said, were her criminal attorneys the ones that didn't file a motion and no showed the depo? No. She is represented by civil attorneys. And so the civil attorneys are the ones, it seems, that failed to do that during this period of time, because Kouri would have been noticed. Actually, I'm going to pull up the docket real quick and I'm going to find the notice of deposition date. Kouri's deposition was noticed August 19th, 2024. So that is when notice of her deposition was sent to her during the period of time that she had counsel. So it was her counsel at that time. So where we're at, like almost $75,000. We got one more. We got one more to go. Yes, we do. We got one more case, everybody. And that's the case where we're going to stay for a minute, because in the other cases where we have some of the other motions that we're going to, no, it's this case that we're going to take a look at. We'll come back to this. We're going to go look, we're going to finish up the monies and do a summary of the money. And then we'll come back to some of the other motions in the estate case. I think that makes the most sense to my brain. And then we'll get to the Kouri suing Katie. So we've looked at the probate case, Kouri suing the estate. We have not looked at the estate suing Kouri, because there were the same issues over in that case. in the estate suing Kouri, that case, let's do a quick swoop and an overview, because the probate case is probating everything. I don't know why everything hasn't been consolidated, and it might be for terminating motions in the future. It's just not there yet. Let's swoop and do a quick addendum on what the case is with the estate suing Kouri, because it's different than Kouri suing the estate. I know, it's a corkboard at this point. I get it. We are taking a quick look at the amended complaint. We have covered this before. It's been a mini-min, and I blame none of you if you have not gone back to find it, because it's been a minute. It's been a minute. This was filed. Let me see what day this was filed. What day were you filed? I hate it when they don't have the filing stamps at the top. It really just, it's one of those things where I'm like, where are the filing stamps? This was filed June 27th, 2023. They're probating the estate. They are, then Kouri files motions in the probate case. Then Kouri sues the estate. Then the estate sues Kouri. Okay. Let's take a look. Nope, wrong motion. Emily, did you grab the wrong motion? I did. That is the wrong one. This is what, there are too many tabs open. There it is. That was the one we were just looking at. Oh, today. Where is it? There we go. It's time. This is the first amended complaint. So this is bringing other individuals into the estate. Katie is the representative, suing Kouri, Kouri's mom, Kouri's brother, Kouri's business. We're everybody. Suing everybody. Also in front of Judge M. Judge M has all of the stuff. In this first amended complaint, they bring in mom, brother, and business. They go through the same general allegations about the business, the formation of the trust, and all of those things. What we haven't looked at, because we've looked at the premarital agreement, we've heard about the financial troubles, the accusations that Kouri is stealing from Eric, that Kouri Richins Realty is deeply in debt, that Kouri is taking money, the stuff that we heard about in the trial plus. Let's see. Eric discovers Kouri stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from him. That is the money on Eric's credit cards. In addition, here, let's just read this real quick, because this is more than we saw in the trial. In September 2020, Eric learned that Kouri had withdrawn hundreds of thousands of dollars from Eric's bank account. Eric also learned that Kouri had wrongfully borrowed large amounts of money on Eric's credit cards. Eric confronted Kouri about the stolen money, and Kouri admitted she had taken the money. The amount of money stolen from bank accounts is estimated to have been in excess of $200,000. The amount of money wrongfully charged to Eric's credit cards is estimated to be in excess of $30,000. Also, and this is in addition to plus. Also in September 2020, shortly after Eric discovered the stolen bank account money and the credit cards, Eric discovered that Kouri had borrowed $250,000 using a forged power of attorney. That's the HELOC on the house. $200,000 cash money, $30,000 on credit cards, $250,000 on the HELOC. This is stuff that you did not hear about in trial. This is stuff that's in the other, well, part of it's in the other. So, HELOC plus $30K plus $200K. On or about May 8th. Why is it always May 8th? Why is it always May 8th? Like, it's just not real. Why is it always May 8th? On or about May 8th, 2013, Eric had executed a durable power of attorney where Eric purportedly appointed Kouri to serve as his attorney in fact. As provided by the language, Kouri was purportedly granted the authority to act for Eric in only those activities that are initiated. Kouri forged Eric's initials next to each activity listed in the power of attorney. Upon information and belief, Kouri misrepresented to Eric the contents of the power of attorney, and Eric unwittingly signed it. We'll see if that is, because they have also insinuated that Kouri signed it. So we'll see. It's not going to matter that much. I don't think we'll litigate this much because at the end of the day, she's been convicted. So we're going to see less litigation, I think, over the forged power of attorney than we would have otherwise. So this says that Eric confronted her about the HELOC. She admitted that she had taken it. We also heard that on that recorded phone call. They talk about the trust, which we saw. They talk about the stolen tax payments, which we saw in trial. Federal tax payments. We didn't hear a ton about this in trial, but we've seen this in some of the other cases. On or about June 19th, 2019, C&E issued a check to Eric Richins in the amount of $23,000 to pay the federal taxes. Kouri took that amount and misdirected it. In September 2020, Eric's accountants specifically asked Kouri if the $23,310 tax payment had been made. Kouri said yes, it had been made. That was a lie, they allege. A payment of $12,060 for Eric's 2020 fourth quarter taxes was due January 15th. On October 4th, Kouri represented that it had been paid. That was false. So now Kouri's not paying their quarterly taxes. How do we think this is going to go okay? Where do you think the money is going to come from? That the business is just going to give you more money? The business was giving money for the quarterlies and you were taking it elsewhere. What do you think? The feds are just going to fucking forget? What do we know to be universally absolutely true? The IRS is going to get their money. And now, not only is the IRS going to get their money, but the IRS is going to get their money plus penalties plus interest. And do you know what the IRS does? They put those penalties in there and then interest can go on both. That shit compounds real quick. Real fucking quick. But they are going to get their money. And they're not really in a hurry to get it because that interest is going to keep ticking up and so are the penalties. They're just like, yeah, it'll be fine. They don't have a duty to mitigate. Just let it keep tolling. Tick it on up there. So Kouri's not paying the quarterly taxes. This is now 3 quarters that we're seeing this pattern of C&E paying Eric money that's supposed to go to the taxes and Kouri taking it. The total amount improperly taken by Kouri that was intended to be paid for federal taxes is over $80,000. Do we see where that's going? That was the federal taxes. State taxes, same story. Let's see where we get to the punchline at the end of this one. Let's see. Upon information and belief, by June 23rd, 2022, Kouri paid $50,000 towards the delinquent state payments, leaving over $3,000 plus penalties and interest owing to the state. The total stolen federal tax payments and stolen state tax payments is at least $134,000, of which $84,000 plus penalties and interest is still owing. The estate is going to have to deal with some of this, right? Who does it hurt if the estate has to pay all this? Directly her kids. It's money directly coming out of her kids' pockets. Directly out of her kids' future. Right. That's who. Because that's who the estate benefits. $84,000 still owing. At the end of February 2022, Eric and Kouri's unpaid federal and state tax liabilities exceeded $190,000. This goes through the life insurance fraud. We have talked about that in the trial. We're going to skip through the life insurance fraud. We did cover this totally ages ago. A lot of this we know from trial. They talk about Eric's death. We might need to go through this again with fresh eyes. We do not have time to do it today. But here are some of the messages that they highlighted. I don't know if we saw all of these in trial. I haven't read these in quite a while. Can you delete everything on an iCloud account? Can deleted text messages be retrieved from an iPhone? Can cops uncover deleted messages iPhone? How to lock my iCloud? You and Proctor. How to permanently delete information from an iPhone remotely? Can cops force you to do a lie detector test? What are you allowed inside Utah jails? Will life insurance pay if death certificate says pending? Luxury prisons for the rich in America. If someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as? FBI analysis of electronics in an investigation.
The FBI!
Is Find My iPhone ever wrong? Can FBI find deleted messages? What does FBI do with electronics for searches? Can the cause of death be changed on the death certificate? Why would the FBI be involved? So I can do this.
The FBI!
Purely for my content creation purposes. Emily, that's not true. No, it's not true. What is considered a lethal dose of fentanyl? Detective Jamie Woody relationship to Richins. Stolen retirement accounts. We heard about this in the bond hearing. We'll circle back to this more. On information and belief, at the time of his death, Eric had at least 2 retirement accounts on which the estate should have been the beneficiary. The grandmother account had approximately $40,000 at the time of Eric's death. The other account was a Utah Retirement Services account that was set up for Eric by his mother. Upon information and belief, the URS account had approximately $15,000. Upon information and belief, Kouri wrongfully and fraudulently obtained a payout from both retirement accounts after Eric's death. The total amount of retirement accounts was at least $55,000. That is money that is supposed to go to the trust. Just keep in mind, every time I say money is supposed to go to the trust, I want you to remember that the trust is set up to protect her and Eric's children. It is to provide for their future. And every time this money is coming out, where is this money going? To Kouri, to Kouri's lenders, to Kouri keeping all this afloat before she gets arrested. This money is gone, baby, gone. Other estate property. At the time of his death, Eric owned significant property that was his sole property. Such property included, but not limited to, at least $200,000 in cash believed to be in Eric's safe. Who got into the safe? Who got into the safe? $200,000 in cash. Is anybody totaling this up? This is in addition to the HELOC, in addition to the bank account, in addition to the credit cards, in addition to the taxes, in addition to the retirement accounts. And $200,000 believed to be in the safe. $25,000 cash on Eric's person at time of death. Contents of Eric's safe, theater room furniture, an electric motorcycle, a flatbed trailer, and other personal items. Eric owned and had title in several vehicles, ATVs, and other recreational vehicles. One of those vehicles was a 2019 Can-Am Defender Max with the VIN number listed. On October 24th, 2022, Kouri applied with the Utah Department of Motor Vehicles for a duplicate title on the Defender. In her application for duplicate title, Kouri made several false representations. Eric gifted her the Defender on October 24th, 2022. No appointment of personal representative has been granted or is pending. The value of the entire estate subject to administration, wherever located, excluding boats, motor vehicles, trailers, or semi-trailers, less liens and encumbrances, does not exceed $100,000. She is or was entitled to take receipt and ownership of the defender. Those are what they are saying the misstatements are. Kouri purported to sign the application for duplicate title on Eric's behalf as his survivor. October 2022. He died in March. The defender and other vehicles that Eric owned at his death are part of the other estate property. It is estimated that the other estate property is worth at least $300,000. Kouri has wrongfully taken the other estate property. So Kouri is diminishing the assets going into the trust that was set up to benefit the children's future. I have no tolerance for this. I have no tolerance for this. I have zero tolerance for this. At every turn, we have seen that Kouri has put herself above literally everything else, including her own kids. If you have had that experience in your life, I am sorry. You deserved better. I know that Kouri's kids are going to be getting better, but it's also a tremendous amount to absorb for the rest of the Richins family. They are absorbing 3 additional children. I know, based on everything we've seen, that the Richins family, A, would do it in a heartbeat, B, love Eric's children like their own, and do not mind. But it is difficult to one day have your children and your family planned for, and the next day have 3 additional humans that you are now responsible for. It's a lot to now shuffle. And the estate was providing for that. And so at every turn, when we look at Kouri diminishing the estate, it pisses me the fuck off. Because at the end of the day, she is diminishing and diminishing and diminishing and diminishing her children's future. I am so frustrated by it. And I am glad that the children are with those that love them and those that can take care of them. But also, bleeding this estate dry before she's arrested is abhorrent. Emily, you shouldn't be shocked. I shouldn't be. But I'm still mad. Not surprised, mad. But when we're looking at millions of dollars taken out of this estate, we are looking at millions of dollars taken out of this estate where Eric tried to protect his kids. And tried to protect his kids. And the sad reality of this is that after Valentine's Day, if Eric had said, fuck this, I'm out of here, and had grabbed his kids and tried to bounce, he would have had massive problems with the Utah courts. Utah courts are not father-friendly. And the amount of issues he would have had getting custody of his kids if he had decided to bounce and file for divorce, I cannot exclaim strongly enough how badly that would have gone for him. And so he ends up in an area where he is trying to protect, I think, his children the best way he thinks he can by setting up a trust. And then he's trying to figure out, and probably being gaslit by Kouri, trying to figure out if what happened is a fluke, if what happened really happened, and what to do next in a matter of less than weeks. And trying to process everything and then trying to protect your kids, and then knowing that you can't leave and take your kids because then you're totally screwed, and may never get custody of your kids. And if you think or suspect that your spouse is capable of trying to poison you, are you going to leave your kids in the home with her? Or are you worried? And then in all of that processing, Kouri is still taking this money out. It makes me so mad. And it's heartbreaking and infuriating. And when she's taking this after Eric's death, she's not stealing. She is stealing from the estate, but she's stealing from her kids because that's who benefits the estate. It's fucking appalling. And I don't know if there's anything else you can do in Eric's situation. You know, lest and Sky is right, lest you get charged with kidnapping your own children. In a court system, I mean, most are not father friendly, but in a court system that is particularly and notably not father friendly. So what do? I think he did everything that he could. And it's frustrating because then she took the time after his death to just take everything. Because I think she had plenty of time to think it through. Because she was thinking about this well before Valentine's Day. She had a whole plan in her head how this was going to go. And took and took and took and took and took. And didn't stop. And only a fraction of that came in at trial. So much more of it is coming in here. Ugh, it's so frustrating. Jessica J. Dubé asked, when was the trust established? I would need to go back and look. It's in this filing. It was after the 2020 thefts. So it would have been right in 2021. I just don't remember the date, but it was in that period of time. All right. I was just trying to get to the part about Kouri's family. Emily, we're going to do a brief overview. Also, Emily crashes out for 22 pages. Fair. The overview. We're getting back to the attorney's fees being awarded to the estate because that's part of where my get it. Part of that is in there. Kouri misappropriates Eric's image and identity. Almost 1 year to the day after Eric's death, Kouri wrote, published, and began selling a book entitled Are You With Me? The unlawful book purports to provide, quote, heartwarming and reassuring guidance for children on how to deal with the death of a loved one, namely by referencing events and details from Eric's life and his relationship with his children. Without obtaining Katie's consent, Kouri included Eric's image, name, identity, and likeness in the book. Eric's name, identity, image, and likeness have intrinsic value, especially as they pertain to the unlawful book. The unlawful book inappropriately and incorrectly expresses or implies that Eric and or Katie, as the personal representative of Eric's estate, would approve or endorse the book. Further, in April 2023, Kouri appeared on Good Things Utah to promote the book. Kouri used Eric's identity in her advertising, marketing, and promotion of the book. Kouri has not shared or provided any portion of the book's sales proceeds with the estate. Right. Continuing on. Defendants hatch a fraudulent scheme to transfer title of the KRR property. This is where we start getting into what the other stuff is. Right? On June 27th, 2023, after Kouri's arrested, Katie originally commenced this action against Kouri and KRR. Both prior to and after the commencement of this lawsuit, KRR, Kouri Richins Realty, held title to certain real property located in Summit County, specifically Lot 210 Frontier Cottages subdivision, that. Upon information and belief, that property has a current market value of approximately $550,000. Look, The estate is looking for where you can start to claw back some of this money back into the estate where it belongs. Look, the defender is gone. The cash out of the accounts is gone. The HELOC, I don't know about yet, but a lot of this money is gone. But when you start to look at, okay, did Kouri have anything at this time that they can claw back into the account? Let's take a look. The problem is a lot of the things that Kouri Richins Realty owned were leveraged beyond their value. The Midway big house, not prison, but jail of a different kind. The Midway big house was leveraged over its value. So foreclosed or sold by the mortgage holders. And there were mortgages and second mortgages and loans and liens on all of these properties. It looks like this one might not have been leveraged as much. Upon information and belief, Kouri, Lisa, and Ronald jointly devised a scheme to siphon assets from Kouri Richins Realty to hinder, delay, or defraud the estate's ability to recover them. To that end, Kouri, Lisa, and Ronnie jointly decided to effectuate a sham transaction through Kouri Richins Realty, where Kouri conveyed title of Kouri Richins Realty property to Lisa, the mom. On June 12th, 2023, after arrest, Kouri transferred title of the property to Lisa via a quitclaim deed. They call it the sham deed. They've attached it. Ronnie executed the deed and signed as Kouri Richins Realty authorized representative because Kouri was in jail. I don't think he was legally an authorized representative, but either way. Upon information and belief, Ronnie and Lisa caused the sham deed to be recorded against the property in the Summit County Recorder's Office. Oh, they do know how to do it. They do know how to file title, y'all. They just didn't for Miss Barney with all of her savings. They didn't record title then. No, but for mom, they did. Then it got recorded. Look at that. They do know. Upon information and belief, Lisa gave no consideration for the property. Upon information and belief, Kouri Richins Realty, through brother, executed the sham deed. I'm going to summarize, to hide it. Conversion. So first cause of action is conversion. You took something and converted it to your own. It's not your own. You can't do that. Stolen money. Conversion. Credit cards is the second cause of action. Again, this is the estate trying to claw back money from Kouri. Conversion of the stolen tax payments against Kouri and the business. Conversion of the retirement accounts. Fifth cause of action, conversion against the estate, other estate property, the vehicle, etc. Sixth cause of action, fraud against Kouri. Solely. Seventh cause of action, quasi-contract, unjust enrichment, or quantum merit constructive trust against Kouri and KRR Realty. Don't worry, we'll do it a different day. Breach of fiduciary duty against Kouri is the eighth cause of action. Ninth cause of action is breach of contract against Kouri. 10th is wrongful lien against Kouri. 11th is review of agent's conduct under Utah code. We would need more research against Kouri. We're not doing that today. Accounting, which is just truly asking for, well, what we saw in the trial, which is the forensic accounting. 13th cause of action, invasion of privacy, misappropriation of name and likeness against Kouri. That's for the book. 14th cause of action, abuse of personal identity. That's also for the book. 15th cause of action, violations of Utah Pattern of Unlawful Activity Act. That's against Kouri for all of it together. The civil, kind of like a civil RICO adjacent. 17th cause of action, wrongful death. People have asked if there's a wrongful death claim. It is in the estate suing. That's where the wrongful death claim is against Kouri. 17th cause of action, personal injury, survival claim. That is against Kouri. 18th cause of action, alter ego. This has to go to the corporation to pierce the corporate veil. 19th cause of action, voidable transfer of the property against Kouri and Lisa. Well, against Kouri's business and Lisa. I think that's Kouri's mom's house. I imagine that's where she lives. And they're going to be like, we're going to take your house. We're coming for you. We're coming for you. 20th cause of action, voidable transfer of the property against Lisa. Jennifer asked, is it a waste of the Richins legal fees to sue Kouri when it will never be paid? If they can get the house on this one, they might be able to get some of it back. So they might be able to get some of that back if they can get to the house. Also, having these out there, if Kouri ever tries to make money, these will always be out there and be owed. And so, yes, I think it does make sense because they will always be out there and be owed. Also, it's part of the fiduciary duty to go try to claw back monies that were misappropriated. 21st cause of action. I also would imagine, and this is just purely me speculating, that with the amount of work the lawyers did, that there are parts of this that they are doing at a discount or trying to group things together because they want, at this point, they're invested and they want to help. So I imagine there is some of that as well at this point. But yeah, it's frustrating. But Kouri is still suing them in multiple cases. So they can't really stop. And going after Kouri, Lisa, and the brother, if the money got siphoned off to brother and mom, there might be money they can claw back. And if they can get a judgment of mom, because on the 2020 thing on ABC that they did about this case, they sat down with Kouri's mom and brother. Someone else was there. I don't remember who. Maybe other brother. I don't remember. But they also showed on the screen pictures of Kouri. ABC will say all day, every day that they don't pay for interviews, but they will pay to license the photos. Right? And we saw some of this going on with Juliana Magalhaes, talking back and forth about sharing her story and trying to have that money go to her family in Brazil, not to her. So they can pay mom and brother for licensing those photos. And so if mom is getting paid, you're not going to get restitution through the criminal court against mom, but you can get restitution against mom here and make mom pay you back. You can absolutely do that. So it makes sense to keep going after them, especially if they're going to get funneled money for interviews that they're going to do. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. So they've got another claim against Kouri, Lisa, and Ronald for the civil conspiracy. And then the prayer for relief, which is you owe all of this money. All of it, all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. I didn't see that 48 Hours also had Kouri's family on, but again, same. If they used photos or what have you, or if they used video, anything that the family owns, they will pay for licensing on those. We didn't pay for the interview. We paid for licensing. So, Amber Redmono said they probably see it as a duty to get the money back from the boys. It goes beyond that too. There's a fiduciary duty there. So there is a legal obligation to the estate to try to bring the money back into the estate that belongs to it. We talked about this in the Girardi bankruptcy about the bankruptcy trustee going out and being like, you owe money back to the estate, essentially. You owe money back to the trust for bankruptcy to divide it up amongst the creditors. This is a different procedural process, but it's kind of the same idea. Like, hey, we're supposed to have this pot of money and y'all took pieces of it and we need to get all the pieces back. And so it's trying to get all the pieces back, but they have a legal obligation here to the trust to do that too. All right. So this is the underlying estate, and the transfers of the property are a huge part of this. And I think what they're going after. So the probate of the estate, Kouri suing the estate suing Kouri, her mom, her brother, her business, and then Kouri not showing up for all of those depositions. I mean, they're all on the same day, but they're 3 different case numbers. They are 3 different cases. And so Kouri not showing up for the deposition means that she got hit with the no-show attorney's fees in the probate case for over $66,000, over $8,000 in the Kouri sues estate case. And then we are now turning our eyes to the exact same scenario in the estate suing Kouri, because we haven't gotten back to that yet. So we've got the 66,000 plus the over 8,000. I think we were up to almost 75,000 on that last count. So let's take a look. Let me find it. Where did it go? Of the, is it stayed in that case? Because there's one other case where it's a $5,000 amount, and I might not have pulled it in the estate versus Kouri. We saw the court reference it. So 5,000 plus in one case, 8,000 plus in one case, 66,000 plus in one case. So in 3 cases, Kouri owes attorney fees back to the estate. I imagine Kouri's going to turn around and sue her lawyers for that. We'll see. What else is going on in the estate case? Estate suing Kouri got stayed largely on all claims due to the criminal case. So we are going to see the estate suing Kouri, Kouri suing the estate, and the probate pick back up, with the caveat that Kouri doesn't have a lawyer because her lawyer bounced off of all of those cases. So then, that was a long way round of so then. We need to get back to the Slayer statute motion because I do not have, I'll find the document and share it in the lounge when I find it. And I'll put an update post on the app when I find where the $5,000 one went. But I have like 37 tabs open and I don't quite remember which case number it was under, but we saw it referenced in the court's order. So instead of dissuading us further, I'm going to get back to what everybody wants to know about, which is the Slayer statute motion that we saw early on in the probate case, because I think this is going to mirror what we will see in some of the other cases. Northwest asked a great question. Will the criminal fraud charges keep the civil cases stayed? I don't know, because one of the key components of the civil case is whether or not Kouri killed Eric. So litigating if she took the money in some of those cases is going to need to go forward with the mom and the brother. But in some of those cases, things might get closed out and yeeted because of the conviction. But they're all going to need to wait until a final entry of judgment is in, and a final entry of judgment is not in because there's not been a sentencing yet. So we're going to have to wait till after the sentencing to see what motions are going to get filed. I'm sure they're all working on them because there will be a final entry of judgment entered, and then they can start refiling motions in these different cases to figure out what they want to do to close out some of these cases based on the fact that Kouri is not entitled to this property. So there's going to be a lot of legal activity that happens here after she is sentenced. So in that, we got a preview of that way, way back in 2023. We covered this briefly then. The court entered an order. I don't know if we ever covered the court order. Whether we did or we didn't, we're covering it now. The probate case, Kouri filed claims in the probate case trying to get to, what Kouri's always trying to get to, the money. And in the probate case early on, there was an order, there was a motion filed by the estate for relief under the Utah Slayer statute. That is what it's called. Yes, like the band, but not of and for the band, but like the band. That is what they call it. They do not call it a son of Stam statute. They call it a Slayer statute. Their words, not mine. I mean, it's the state that calls, making meth clandestine chemistry. What do we expect? Utah has some great names for things. The naming scheme in the Utah courts is like a 10 out of 10 because they're like, meth lab criminal case is literally called clandestine chemistry. I am not joking. That is not a joke. It is absolutely true. So when we look at the fact that they call it a Slayer statute, I'm not surprised. So I know. Doctor Who said, wait, they're not giving Slayer a statue? No, I know. They should, but they're not. Oh, the clandestine chemistry I'm here for. The purgatory detention facility. Exactly. Like Utah's like, look, it just makes sense. Clandestine chemistry. So the motions were filed for relief under the Slayer statute. Oppositions were filed to that. The court issued an order back in 2023. I love Judge M's writing. We are going to go through Judge M's ruling because this is going to give us a little bit of a preview of what we might see come up now that the criminal case is done. I think that will be helpful. I hope that is helpful. So let's swoop. Let's get into the court's order in the not the probation case, in the probate case regarding the Slayer statute. And then we will go take a look at a case we have not looked at yet, because I didn't even know it was happening. Exhausted. But we're going to look at this first, because all of you have questions about the Slayer statute, and we're just going to see what Judge M says. Emily, are we just going to stay with Judge M? They filed 17,000 civil actions. Yes, we're staying as long as we can. You can't get rid of us. We're not done. There's another criminal case, there's a sentencing, and there's 5,982 different civil cases. You can't get rid of us. We're staying. We're sat. Welcome to Utah. Look, we're going to go to Swig. We're going to see if we can figure out what the fuck's actually going on with the secret lives of everybody. I'm going to try to ask Whitney what her makeup routine is, because I love, we're going to see what we can do. Why not? We're going to figure it out. Let's take a look at the Slayer statute order from Judge M early on in the probate case. All right. Order on motion for preliminary relief under the Slayer statute from December 7th, 2023. I love it. Chat said, this channel is just going to become a Judge M channel. I'm here for it. No objections. No objections from me. Yes. We're just the Judge M fan site. Look, man. Since I got my Irlen lenses, and I used to suffer from headaches pretty badly. Once I got my Irlen lenses, I have not had as bad of headaches. Nothing has hurt my head as much. Few things have hurt my head as much as watching the judge in the Afro Man trial. I don't know if I can do it again. I don't know if I can do it again, y'all. I don't know if I can. I was ready to just crawl out of my own head. My head hurt so bad. I have never been so upset. No, that's not true. I get upset about a lot of stuff. That is at the top, though. That is in top 5 levels of just fuckery. And there is a level of rage when you can see the fuckery happening and you can't do anything to stop it. You're just watching the fuckery go down and you're just like, what is happening? So Judge M is like a spa day compared to whatever the fuck that bench officer was. Emily, you're not calling him Judge. No, that bench officer was up to some wildness. Judge M is just a breath of fresh air. And yes, so we're going to stay grounded in the calm for just as long as we can. Because I can't handle it. It is just outrageous. Okay. What is Travis at? Sorry. I have a teen question real quick. Do we need buffering music? No, we're good. Yes. And all right. I love that my kiddo checks in with me. All right. Judge M, spa day, Slayer statute. kiddo. Continuing on. Aldo said, Afro Man should write a song about the judge. I would wait. I would wait until things are complete. I would not do that yet. Should, but not yet. Because that bench officer, I would be concerned about. And yeah, I would hold on that. At some point, yes. I don't think the timing is right now, which is tough, but everybody saw it in real time. So we got to see it. Order on motion for preliminary relief under Slayer statute. This motion came before the court November 3rd, 2023 for oral argument by the estate on the motion for preliminary relief under the Slayer statute. Attorneys for the estate were there. This was when Sky Lazaro was still on the case, so Sky Lazaro and Austin Nate appeared on behalf of Kouri. Having considered the parties' briefing and motion, oral argument, and legal authorities, Kouri Richins' objection to the form of this order and the personal representative's reply to the objection, the court orders as follows. Pursuant to Utah Code 75-2-803, the personal representative seeks 1, an injunction precluding Kouri from dissipating property and assets during the prosecution of the criminal charges against her, which are currently pending in Utah. 1 or 2, a constructive trust on Kouri's assets. 3, imposition of a trustee's bond. 4, appointment of a receiver to marshal and manage Kouri's property and assets pending a determination on the personal representative's petition. Motion is granted in part, denied in part. What are they asking for, Emily? Money. They want to protect the money. They do not want Kouri to continue to siphon off funds and move money around that might need to go back to the estate, but that hasn't been determined yet. And they don't want Kouri spending all of the money that might need to go back to the estate on her lawyers. They want to pause all of the money from going anywhere. You can see why Kouri's lawyers were kicking and fighting this, right? Because if the only reason Kouri has money to spend is because of the hundreds of thousands of dollars we saw misappropriated from Eric's funds, then no, you want to freeze all of that money, put it somewhere until it can be decided. Because once it's gone, it's fucking gone. So they are asking to freeze the money and stick it somewhere else. And hold on to it. So the estate's not going to spend it, but Kouri's not going to spend it. That is a completely reasonable request. Motion is granted in part, denied in part. Let's take a look. To the extent that under Utah Code 75-803, there we go, that is better. The personal representative, sorry, I'm messing with it so it is embiggened. The personal representative must satisfy the requirements of Rule 65A of the Utah Rules of Civil Procedure to obtain injunctive relief. Specifically, 65A-E1 is satisfied as a matter of law for the reasons set forth in the court's June 12th order in the criminal case, through which the court concluded that there is substantial evidence to support the state of Utah's aggravated murder charge. The aggravated murder counts as a disqualifying homicide. So they've already gotten to step 1. So step 1 is there a disqualifying homicide for the purpose of a Slayer statute? Yes, there is, in this case, enough probable cause that yes, there is a disqualifying homicide. Of course, that would change if the verdict changed. But step 1, done. The court concludes that the personal representative is substantially likely to prevail on the merits of the petition. That's based on the criminal case. Rule 65AE2 is satisfied because the difficulty of recreating, chasing, and reversing the flow or dissipation of assets, not equitable division of the assets, dissipation of the assets. Kouri has a very, very outsized skill of turning money into nothing. She can take money and turn it into ether in moments. It's just whoosh, into the wind. Kouri does a fantastic and skillful job at making money completely disappear. And so the court has said the difficulty of recreating, chasing, and reversing the flow or dissipation of assets that might occur during the criminal case's pretrial period poses an irreparable challenge to the estate. Cannot be repaired. Trisha Lynn said, I have that skill. It's called crafting. Me too, but it's called cameras. And then take other aspects of tech and add it in there. Yesterday, I was trying to talk myself out of the fact that I apparently need a new Kindle. I don't. But yesterday I was like, you know what? Maybe I do. I saw something on Instagram. Skill. It's a skill. So the court says that the disappearance of the money is a concern, and it is incredibly difficult. A lot of you have skills of turning money into things. Turning money into RC cars is expensive. I mean, I also turn money into band. Having kid activity. Some of you are like, oh, I turn money into hockey or horseback riding. Yes. It is a whole thing. However, when it's your money, you get to make that choice. You don't get to play with other people's pockets. Thank you, Bloodworth, for the other people's pockets. So you see where the court is going so linearly through the rules. This would make any legal writing professor happy. Look, we've got the court just going line by line. 65AE1, 65AE2, 65AE3, and 65AE4. Thank you, Your Honor, for being so linear. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Why can other bench officers not just do this? It's so much. Money into noise is really expensive. It's true, especially when the noise is like on stage. Because Peace Love Carrie says, I turn money into concert tickets. Me too. Which also makes it go poof. Just whoosh. But it's great. So the judge is going through each section of the statute. Dissipating money is a problem. The judge finds that 65AE3 is satisfied because the threatened injury to the estate outweighs the harm that a carefully tailored injunction would pose to Kouri. The court's like, we can do this. AE4 is satisfied because an injunction is not as adverse to the public interest. In fact, the court says an injunction is entirely consistent with the sound public policies that the legislature established by enacting Section 8E of the Slayer statute, stating that the purpose of an injunction under the Slayer statute is to preserve the assets of the killer or the killer's estate. Utah's really not holding back. The EDB's up here like, no name calling. The Utah's like, murderer! We're calling it what it is. Okay, Utah. The court goes on to say, although injunctive relief is appropriate, the court nonetheless has concerns that an overbroad injunction could be constitutionally infirm. Right, because now you are teetering on, does Kouri have the right to spend her money on attorneys? Or would that be too much? Right? The court hereby enters a preliminary injunction ordering 1, Kouri, 2, her business, 3, any other business entity that Kouri owns and controls, permanently enjoining or preliminary enjoining from transferring, changing title, or otherwise, what? What is this? Your Honor? This is new to me. Hold on. We need to go. We need the pronunciation guide. This is new. We have a word of the day. Everybody.
Hypothecate.
Hypothecating. Emily, what does hypothecate mean? We're going to need a word of the day bumper at some point. Here's our word of the day. Law nerds, we're getting smarter. Look at us. Chat, thank you for trying to spell it out. I don't have phonemic awareness, so even breaking it down visually, I can't. My brain is so spicy. It really is frustrating. But thank you. Hypothecating. Do we know what hypothecating means, chat? To pledge money to a specific purpose. You shall not pledge your money. It's just all connected. It is. It is. That's exactly what it is. From the Oxford Dictionary, to pledge money by law to a specific purpose, not the pledge. Hypothecating is a 10 out of 10, Your Honor. 10 out of 10. Do not pledge your money elsewhere. Oh, hypothecating is going in the rotation. It sounds too much like apothecary. Hypothecating. Oh, I love it. If only Amber Heard had known. I did not pledge. I did not donate. I hypothecated. I use them synonymously. Actually, it is a synonym, though. So that wouldn't be that funny. But yeah, hypothecating. To pledge. Oh, boy. Other OPP, other people's pledges. Aaron, yes, other people's pledges. You can't even make that up. I'm delighted. I'm delighted. Oh, hypothecating. Perfect. 10 out of 10. Love it.
Respect.
No, wrong one. Love it so much. All right. Kouri may not transfer, change title, or pledge any asset. What date was this entered? December 7th, 2023. Hold on. We're going to pause just one moment because my memory is not good enough. When we were just looking at the other lawsuit regarding Kouri's mom's money, what day did they say that transfer happened? Was it before? Hold on, we're pulling it up together. We're on a side quest. Help, we're on a side quest. No, this is an appropriate side quest. We need to go look at when the property transfer happened. Hold on. Pardon my Zoom. I think it was before December of 2023. Pardon my Zoom. Let's see. We're still in the causes of action. We need to get back to the facts. That is the book. That is the transfer of property. July 12th, 2023. All right. July 12th, 2023. So before the court's order here is when that happened. All right. Where is our order from Judge M? Oh boy. We're hold on. Too many tabs. There we go. It was prior to hypothecating. It was hypothecated. Well, it was yeeted earlier. All right. So the house was transferred earlier than this order. Bummer. In addition, the court says under Utah Code 75-2803A33, the court orders that all assets owned, held, or controlled by Kouri and the Kouri entities from the date of Eric Richins' death have been and continue to be held in constructive trust by Kouri and the Kouri estates and the Kouri entities for the benefit of the estate. That part, that's the part. In addition, all assets owned, held, or controlled by Kouri and the Kouri entities from the date of Eric's death have been and continue to be held in constructive trust. So anything that she dissipated, like the home, this order ties back to the date of Eric's death prior to the transfer of the home, which might make it easier to unwind because of this order. Smart. The court goes on to say, to the extent the personal representative believes or asserts that any transfers or distributions of assets, past or future, by Kouri or the Kouri entities were or are, 1, unreasonable or unnecessary to fund Kouri's criminal defense, and 2, otherwise constitute breaches of Kouri's fiduciary duties to the estate, the representative may seek relief from the court. So this allows another vehicle to potentially undo that property transfer. Fair. The court denies without prejudice the PR's request for a trustee bond and appointment of a receiver. So they got a lot of what they wanted, but now they still have to go unwind all of this. And that was served on, what does this say? Certificate of service 28th day of November, and then it hit the docket on December 7th, 2023. So the court's initial findings under the Slayer statute put a freeze on Kouri's assets to not be diminished other than expenses for criminal defense. These civil cases do not count. Kouri cannot try to get into this money to pay civil lawyers to take her case, which is going to make it a huge issue for Kouri now that her lawyers have bounced. They have yeeted. And it's going to allow them to unwind some of what's going on with that house that was transferred into Kouri's mother's name. And it might allow them to go after, in restitution or substitute assets, any monies, and this is speculation on my part, but any monies that Kouri's mother may have been paid for use of photos on television or interviews or what have you. That is why some of this is continuing to unwind. And I think we will see another request under the Slayer statute. I don't know if we will see that in the criminal case during sentencing, or if this will have to wait to the civil cases and play out in the voluminous civil cases. Speaking of which, voluminous cases. We need to go look at the case I haven't looked at yet, because I fucking missed one. Because there are so many of them, but I missed one. And I am mad about it. But anyway, there's a lot of cases. So you know what we haven't done yet today? Because where were we yesterday? We took a brief break and we went, where did we go for food court yesterday? To the grocery store. We went to the mall to hang out in whatever given state, but mostly Chicago. We didn't fly back to Utah. So let's fly back to Utah and look at this fourth case. It's going to be like that today. Fourth case. Yeah. Fourth case. Kouri sues Katie. And again, yesterday, when I was still buffering and looking at the docket of how many Kouri cases there are, I should have taken a screenshot of it. But when I was looking at the docketed cases, there was one that I didn't recognize. And I was like, what is this? Kouri sued Katie. And then I was also buffering on the fact that Kouri's birthday is 4/20. Chat, yes, actually, this is a great question. You ask good questions, as you do, because chat is bae. Teaspoons of Splenda. I cannot confirm where the overabundance of Kit Kats came from. But EDB Air does have an abundance of Kit Kats. So if that is for you, give me a break. Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. We're there. But I can't say where those Kit Kats are from. They were hypothecated to EDB Air. We don't disclose our sources. They're just chocolate. I mean, they have wings. They aren't airplane wings, but they have wings. It's fine. It's totally fine. Let's take a look at what in the ever-loving fuck this additional civil lawsuit is. Because, girl, what are we doing? This was filed, and we're going to take a look at the entire complaint. It is 46 pages, but some of that is an addendum. This was filed on June 9th, 2023. I don't know how I missed it, but I did. Miss Scarlett said, on a completely unrelated note, EDB Air is now serving Kit Kats. Yes, we are. You know, as not a sponsor of F1. The fact that I completely blanked on the fact that there was another civil case is because there are so many. I do not know if the court will consolidate a lot of these. It seems that we have a lot of overlapping issues, but not in all of them, right? In the estate suing Kouri, they're also suing mom and brother, but not all the litigation deals with mom and brother. So there are some issues here that can't be consolidated, but some that maybe should be. But this is Kouri suing Katie in, let's see. Is this the wrong one? Hold on. Let me make sure I have the right one pulled up, because again, I was grabbing these very late and I want to make sure this is the correct one, because I think this is the wrong complaint. Hold on. No, this is the right complaint. Let's see, that's the right case number. I might have misread it. Is that the right case number? Hold on. There are too many. This is the problem. There are too many cases. We've got probate, estate suing Kouri, Kouri suing estate, Kouri versus Katie. This is why we don't do things late at night. All right. Here we go on the fourth case, which I thought was Kouri suing Katie personally. It's not. It's Kouri suing Katie as personal representative. I misread that when I was prepping late. That is my apologies. Because when I was going through this, I was like, personally, okay, let's take a look. But also, let me pull the docket real quick. I don't understand why this would be a separate case, because we already have some of these claims in Kouri suing the estate. So Kouri suing the estate under a different number doesn't make a lot of sense. So I just want to double check and make sure I don't have things in the wrong place, because these are two totally separate case numbers. And it looks like I might have put the wrong complaint in the wrong folder. So Chad, I apologize, as this is many, many filings, and I want to double check on that. So let's see. Let me just grab the docket real quick and close some of the very, very many tabs that we have open, because we side quested gloriously, but also in side questing gloriously, I have too many tabs and I am wanting to confuse myself, because I might have put, the wrong one in the wrong place. Chad, I appreciate that all of you guys are like, it's fine. I appreciate you. I just want to make sure we have the right documents, because, well, ADHD, and I want to make sure I wasn't confusing myself, because I was doing this late after taking care of some senior year stuff for T. So we're going to just double check together. I'm going to pull up the docket together, and we're going to go through it like just IRL together as we side quest. That's what we're here for. Side questing has been all of the things, but also I know what I saw, and I want to double check, because I think I might have might have put something in the wrong folder is a very reasonable possibility with the amount of cases here. So let me just grab that case number and a very complex file system and make sure I have the right case number on this one. As we are, it is too many folders. All right. We are case number ending. Where are we? 0230. Let's just grab it. Where is, this is what we're looking at here. Let me show you guys. As we are, this is only part of the docket because part of the docket's under a different version of her name. But this is what we're looking at for this part of Kouri's docket. There are other cases under Kouri Darden Richins. So when we're talking about a whole bunch of cases, we are talking about a whole bunch of cases. So we are grabbing this one. And nope, we don't need the case history. Wrong button, Emily. Need to do it thusly. Make sure it's the right case, which is also, I need to pull this back over because my ability to track which line I'm on is terrible. And it's going to be worse if I try to do it from a third monitor. And then we'll end up right back where we're at. All right, now we can pull it up. Wrong button. Wrong button. This is where I thought we were. Let's grab the document. We'll take a look at the docket together while this downloads. This is in addition to suing her, but also still suing her. Let me show you the docket where I got confused because I was like, you got to be joking me. But apparently this is the docketed item under this additional case. This is Kouri versus Katie. In most of the other cases, it says as personal representative. This one does not. This is the ongoing litigation from June 2023. And there is a whole bunch of litigation in this case as well. As we kind of cruise through the docket real quick, we're going to get to the bottom of this docket. There are over 149, well, there are 149 docketed items. And this got stayed back in July of 2025. And then the new docketed activity is the lawyer leaving. That's the new docket activity from March 17th. The lawyer left all of these cases. So this has been ongoing in addition to the other cases. I do not understand why we have multiple case numbers for same. I thought, and that was my error, that this was Kouri suing Katie personally. This is Kouri suing Katie as personal representative of the estate, not the trust. And so we have two separate things. Let's take a look at those as I try to unwind my brain because it's needed. And let's take a look together. We're just going to piece it together, chat, because why not? Let's go take a look. I've got the Kouri v. Katie pulled up. We're going to close these other tabs. We're going to do it together. I'm going to leave the docket open because I think my confusion is that one of them is PR of the estate and one of them's of the trust, and they filed two separate suits. I'm sure there's a reason for that, but I also understand where I got confused. So let's pull this one up and pull that one up. This is why we never prep stream late at night, but again, it is what it is. These are not my cases. I've spent so much time on these cases. As much time as I would elsewhere. So this one, let's see. No, same. What are we doing? This is dumb. Now we're shifting to rage. All right. We've got two different cases under two different case numbers. We've got a 076 case. This will matter. We have a 076 case and we have a 0 or a 230 case. Both are Kouri versus Katie as the personal representative of the estate. And both are the same complaint. So in both cases, and I'm switching between two different documents, you can't tell because they're the same. I was wondering if one was as PR for the trust and one was PR for the estate. But no, they're both for Kouri versus Katie as personal representative of the estate. So we have Kouri versus the estate twice. This is a 46-page complaint. This is a 46-page complaint. They are... Corporate would like you to find the difference. They are the same picture. But they both have different docket items. Why are there two? Well, now I'm going to be pissed. I need answers. They're not the same case. What are we doing? Okay. Well, Chad, I am confused. I think the confusion is warranted at this point because it's two completely different docket items, which is generally two different suits or two different lawsuits. And they are against the exact same parties and they are not consolidated at this point. But then why would they be running on two docket numbers? I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on that because I do have quite a few questions. Let me just pull up the dockets and take a look at the difference between the dockets because now I want to know. Two dockets, one case? I think so. Because Kouri sued, I want to look at the dates too. We're going to just research it together, chat. Normally things are well more prepared, but we have hit a roadblock of confusion that we're going to try to unwind before we wrap up stream. So let's try to unwind the confusion we have, I have crossed into on the multiple docketed items of the same case. Well, seemingly the same case, because Kouri sued the estate and Kouri also sued Katie under two different numbers, but seemingly for the same thing. But they're two very active dockets, but differently active. And both of them are over property rights. The complaints look the same. So it's going to take me some time to figure it out because one docket is much more active than the other. Let's just look at the complaints one more time. And then I'll see if I can figure this out differently. But they are, let's see if these are filed different dates, shall we? Let's go look. Let's see what date this was filed on. Sorry for the zooming to the bottom of this. It is absolutely confusing to me. This was filed June 9th, 2023. Okay, well, when was the other one filed? Wasn't this also filed in June? Why are we doing two? And why are both dockets still active? June 9th, 2023. Okay, but both of them say in the complaints, this is so strange. Both of them say in the complaints, Kouri as an individual versus Kouri Richins in her capacity as personal representative for the estate. Let's take a look at the other one. Let's see if we can spot the difference because my brain is just buffering. Kouri as an individual versus, and these are from two different cases, Katie in her capacity as personal representative of the estate of Eric Richins. Right. They are the same complaint in two different dockets. And I do not, same lawyers, same causes, same judge, different numbers, different dockets, but the dockets have been active. So why would the dockets both be active? I'm going to have to do some more research. one docket is not as active as the other. And I'm going to have to go find why these two things aren't consolidated, because they should, it seems, be consolidated, because we've got two different case numbers of Kouri versus the estate. All right. That's something I'm probably not going to be able to unwind on stream because it is too much stuff. So we're going to have to put an asterisk on what the fuck is happening in this one versus the other one. And I'm going to do some more digging. Law nerds, I'm sorry that we have an open-ended question. We have an open-ended question. Why? I'm very annoyed. I hate it when I can't figure it out. Also, I hate it when I looked at this and was like, that's interesting. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And then we get to tomorrow and we're like, what? What are we doing? Why do we have multiple cases? I'm going to have to dive in more. However, interesting note, as these are going on, and they're going to require more of a deep dive, here's the missing $5,000. Here's the missing $5,000 that we were talking about earlier from May 14th. Here's the other one. Kouri versus Katie in the 230, because there's a 230 case and the other ones. This is the other attorney's fees of $5,683. It's in this case. So Kouri versus the estate, Kouri versus the estate versus Kouri, and the probate. 4. But why? Why, I don't know if I have an answer for. But it's going to take a little bit more digging and a few more docket items before I can tell you why there are 2 of these, because the complaints are exactly the same, filed on the same date. There's got to be a reason. So where are we at the end of the day? Well, on March 17th, 2026, the lawyers that were representing Kouri, who have the same last name as one of the deceased witnesses in the case, I have no idea if there is any relation. I did not dig into it at all. I am not going to speculate about it at all, because literally anything is possible. It seemed that that would have been a conflict. So I would guess same surname, but not same, because conflict. They withdrew from the case. They withdrew from all of the cases. Today we covered Kouri suing the estate, apparently 2 ways, which is a conflict I have not figured out yet, but we're going to figure it out, because there were attorney's costs or attorney fees awarded in both for a different amount. There are 2 active cases with like the same complaint of Kouri suing the estate, both from June 2023. Then there's the probate case that had the bulk of the attorney fees, over $66,000 in attorney's fees. And then one case, Kouri versus estate, at $8,000, and one case, Kouri versus estate, at $5,000. And then there's estate versus Kouri is the outlier. So we've got 4 civil cases going on. 2 of them initiated by Kouri. One of them is just the probate matter that was kind of initiated by Kouri, but not really. She made it much more complicated, but the probate matter. And then the estate suing Kouri. Kouri has no lawyers on all 4 cases. So Kouri is going to have to figure out if she is going to represent herself pro se in the 2 cases where she's suing, or if she is going to hire new lawyers with what money? From jail or prison when we get there. And then we have the estate suing Kouri and Kouri's mom and brother, which they're not going to let go because they shouldn't. And then the probate of the estate, which we got into a bit, but that case is where the initial Slayer statute motion was brought that froze or purported to freeze Kouri's assets, except for what she needed for her criminal defense, But that should all be frozen at this point because she has state or county appointed representation. So how and when is Kouri going to hire new attorneys? What is going to happen with these cases now that Kouri has been convicted of Eric Richins' murder? Once she is sentenced, there will then be a final judgment that the civil attorneys can bring forward in these cases. And then I expect we will see a bunch of litigation trying to close out aspects of these cases. What's not going to be closed out entirely is the estate trying to claw money back into the estate from Kouri. And we overviewed that. I mean, it was more of an overview, but we overviewed that today more thoroughly than I had anticipated because I had forgotten about some of it. But the estate is saying that Kouri took funds that should have been for the estate in a variety of ways to a variety of places, and they are trying to pull that all back in, including retirement accounts we've heard about, including money out of a safe, money out of bank accounts, money from Eric Richins' credit cards, plus the HELOC, plus K. Richins Realty transferred a home into Kouri's mom's name. But the property of K. Richins Realty was derived from estate property. So they are trying to claw all that back in and pull it back to the estate because it is estate property. And as I said earlier in stream, when we talk about the estate property, remember what this trust was for. It was for Eric's sons, his 3 kids, who no longer have a father, whose mother has had paternal rights terminated and is going to be in prison for the rest of her life, or at least I think she should be. And if not, she will be in there substantially for the rest of her life. We'll have to wait for sentencing. But this estate that she was dissipating assets from is to benefit her kids. And so the estate is fighting to bring all that money back in. And if the estate has the ability to argue for substitute assets, and if Kouri's mother and brother are getting paid for the photos used by ABC or other media, it's fair for the estate to go after that aggressively and say, no, you had the property rights transferred to you. We want that back. No, you had other assets to you. We want that back, and start to claw it back, especially if there's reason to believe that that money is going back to Kouri and she's trying to sidestep around any restitution she may owe by having those funds paid to her mom. Oh, it's really Kouri's photo. She owns the copyright. We talked a lot in the podcast about copyrights being sold with relation to other things going on in Utah. But if Kouri's trying to sidestep money getting paid to her by it being paid to her mom, like, hey, this is my photo, but pay my mom to use the photo. This is my speculation. But the estate has grounds to go after that. And we might see the prosecution try to go after that if the statutes in Utah allow it for restitution back to the estate. And then in the financial crimes case, because there's still another criminal case ongoing, in addition to those 4 civil cases, some tax issues and business cases, because Kouri's taking money from businesses that didn't get paid back. We haven't done that today. So when will we see all of this come to a head? After sentencing, which is why we overviewed it today. After sentencing, there will be a final judgment. We will see how the state goes after restitution. Restitution for the friend Chelsea Barney is going to have to happen in the financial fraud case. And honestly, I'm of the mind, you let me know where you're at with this. I suspect we're going to be in the same place. But in that financial fraud case, there are mortgage fraud counts and other fraud counts. I hope that Chelsea Barney gets paid back first. The lenders had every way to find those red flags, and some of them I think chose not to. But Chelsea Barney was deceived in a different way and was not a sophisticated lender when we are talking about the real estate transactions. And I'm not saying she is an unsophisticated human. I'm saying she is not a sophisticated borrower when it comes to these transactions. And we saw that in the text messages when she was having difficulty figuring out how to wire money. She was not in a position to unwind what Kouri was doing the way that the professional lenders were. And so I hope if there is restitution, that goes back to Chelsea Barney first. But I also hope when they are, and it's going to be hard to find enough money to go around. But I hope that we see in the civil case, the estate getting back some of that money that is owed, because it's the estate's job to try to provide for Kouri's children for their childhood and going forward. A lot of you are asking about Kouri's paternal rights. Yes, her paternal rights as a parent were stripped from her. I don't have the date. It came up again in one of Sky's interviews that she clarified it. But yes, Kouri lost paternal rights to the kids. Here's where I am going to go from here, because we are not done. Today's like a part one. There is litigation over trust beneficiaries, the children, that I'm going to look at. I have not had time to preview process that litigation. I am going to summarize it probably differently because I don't want to bring up all the documents dealing with the kids. But I want to be able to tell you what's going on. So that will be in summary form. I am going to try to figure out the lawful difference between the two cases where Kouri is suing the estate. Utah calls it paternal rights for whichever parent. So in Utah, it's all parental. I meant parental. Thank you, Trisha. Trisha can translate Emily tired to Emily not tired. Parental rights is exactly what I meant. Yes. So the parental rights, OPP, other people's paternity at this point. You knew what we meant. But it was addressed in an interview, and it's been addressed in some of the court documents that we haven't gone over. So she had her rights as a parent stripped in Utah based on her being in custody charge with murder of the co-parent. So we have 4 civil lawsuits, a business lawsuit we've not covered, a separate estate lawsuit we've not covered, and the other criminal case. I am going to be going through those a different stream. I need a little bit more time to go through them and let you know what's going on. We're going to get to questions, but at the end of the day, Kouri needs to find a lawyer, or Kouri's going to be pro per in it. And we've seen Kouri represent herself just a little bit in the civil cases. We might be in some Kouri's representing herself in some really deeply complex civil litigation, which is highly specific when we are dealing with estates and probate. And Kouri really might be in a big mess with that. Kouri owes the estate attorney's fees to the tune of over $75,000, over $66,000 in one case, over $8,000 in another, over $5,000 in another. I wonder if Kouri's going to sue her lawyers over that for not filing. I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive into that as well. I'm curious. I'm curious a bit more. So we'll be a little bit of a deep dive on that too. We've got a whole Kouri civil day part 2 that needs to happen. But I wonder if Kouri will go after her lawyers and try to make the lawyers pay the lawyers' fees, which would actually benefit the estate's lawyers. So maybe she wouldn't. Kouri might be like, fuck it, try to get the money from me. Try to get the money from me. Come at me, bro, versus making the lawyers do it. Which will be interesting to see, because it was the lawyer's obligation to notify everyone that Kouri wasn't going to go to the deposition, because you can go to a deposition from being in custody. You just have to get the transportation, and that's up to Kouri's lawyers. Not her criminal lawyers, her civil lawyers. She had 2 sets. I think we're going to also see Kouri lose her criminal lawyers after sentencing. I don't think that Nestor, Lewis, and Ramos will be staying with Kouri on the on the criminal fraud case, unless they're able to reach a plea deal pretty quickly. I can imagine them staying through plea deal if that looks like it's going to resolve, but they're not going to stay through. That case hasn't even been at preliminary hearing yet. So Kouri will need new lawyers there as well, which will delay some of the criminal proceedings. So that's May 8th that Kouri will be back in court, in criminal court, for her fraud case. She'll be back May 13th, I believe, for sentencing. And after sentencing, we will see the civil stuff pop off. But she has about 30 days to get a new lawyer or represent herself. What do you think's going to happen? You think Kouri's going to find a new lawyer? You think she's going to find a new lawyer? I don't know about that. Let's get to a little bit of a chat, because I don't know how she could. Brooke in the chat asked, will Kouri get appointed counsel for her criminal appeal? Yes, she will. She will have court-appointed counsel for her criminal appeal, but not for her civil stuff. She's got a mess of civil stuff, and not an inexpensive mess. Hundreds and hundreds of docket items across multiple cases, including cases that we didn't talk about today. Yeah. So Kouri might end up pro se or pro per, self-represented. I use pro se and pro per synonymously because some jurisdictions use one and some use the other. We might see Kouri ending up representing herself. We should just call it Sarah Boone. Full Boone representing herself with her. At least her handwriting's easy to read. Kouri has nice handwriting. She did have an LSAT book. I don't even think going to law school would give Kouri the information that she would need. I mean, Emily, you're really one to talk about estates and probate. You've told everyone multiple times that during that class, you took it because you needed to know it for the bar. Here's what I learned in estates and trusts. I don't know enough about this to touch it in any way. And if I do touch it, it's just going to make everything a mess. No touchy, no touchy, no touchy. That is an area of law where you need an experienced practitioner that you can learn from. You do not jump in. That is a no touchy. It is its whole other area. I learned enough to go through the bar exam, to watch some movies with my friend TJ, and to know that that is an area of law that I am like, nope, no touchy. Avila said, how did you pass the bar then? On the first try. Because I knew enough to get through the bar exam, and then I knew enough to know that I didn't know enough to touch that for a client ever in the history of ever. I knew enough to go, nope, not for me. Look, you can study for a bar exam and spot the issues, but the rest of it is just like, I'm not doing it. The one thing about law school is you learn how much you do not know. I worry about we need to do an AI day, but I worry about people just trying to scoot through it with Chat GPT because that it's not going to work. And not going to work. It's not going to work well. Especially when it comes to trusts and estates. They are so specialized and they take experience. You need experience from other practitioners. It really is an area of law where, well, most areas of law, you need to work with someone who knows more than you do, that you can only learn through working with another attorney. And attorneys, they're better in groups. They're better in groups. You do better in groups because you need to learn from how other people have practiced. It is worth it, but estate stuff is deeply specific and complex. And I do think that if Kouri is trying to represent herself in that, it is going to be a massive problem. I also think that the judge will be patient. We have seen Judge M be patient, but we also know Judge M is going to follow the law. And I do not think the law is on Kouri's side after she's been convicted of Eric's murder. And I don't think all of the litigation will end because some of those clawing back of funds will keep going. And the litigation over business stuff is going to keep going. They probably won't be able to recover anything, but they've pulled the estate into it too. We'll go into the Kouri business litigation another day because they're also going after the estate and others. That's not a today issue. Today, we're getting to questions And we're going to go through the rest of it. Well, no, we're going to go through the rest of it a different day. Kouri's sentencing is May 13th or 14th. We have talked about both dates so much today that my brain has buffered, but it's one of those two dates. It's on Eric's birthday. I just, off the top of my head, do not have it pulled up in front of me. So one of those two dates, 13th or 14th. Don't worry, we'll be streaming it, just like we're going to be streaming the sentencing on May 8th for Banfield. I need to go look and see if we've got sentencing memorandums for Banfield yet. There's not a lot of discretion there. 13th, thank you, chat. With Kouri, there is some discretion because it's not an automatic life without parole case, which surprised me. Surprised me a lot, actually. Tina, thank you for the 20 gifted memberships. Username not found. Thank you for the gifted membership. We had a lot of new law nerds. Welcome. Don't forget to go check out the members only videos that are there for you for the new members. Katie, thank you for the 10 gifted memberships. And I know we had other gifted memberships. Canonical Heat, thank you for the 50 gifted memberships. That is incredibly kind. Welcome, new law nerds. Enjoy the no slow mode and the emojis and the members only videos. They are all on the channel for you. Caitlin asked, will they ever see the money again? It's going to be difficult in some of these areas. I don't know if there are any tangible assets left, but if Kouri had any money left in a bank account or retirement account, anything, there might be some there, but I don't know how much. They're not going to get much. Coffee Time for D said, EDB, hearing you say that you are sorry that someone just like Kouri, sorry that someone has just like Kouri, to me heals one of 1,000 cuts. Coffee Time for D, which is why I always try to acknowledge that what we are looking at with Kouri is unique to their family, but it is not unique to only their family. This is not the only human in the world that has put themselves well above their kids. That's not the case at all. And I always try to acknowledge that because it can be really hard to watch this and see these patterns and recognize them so much. It's also sometimes hard when you're in it to recognize that these patterns are not how other people are experiencing their home life. And I hope that sometimes highlighting it when we see it happening helps go, you know, it's not me. This isn't me. This is not me. I did not cause it. I did not do it. It is not my fault that it's happening. This is solely and entirely about the other person, like it is with Kouri. Everything Kouri is doing is about Kouri. And it's outrageous to see, but it's also not uncommon. Kouri puts Kouri above everyone else. And there's nothing you can do to undo that. There's nothing you can do to change that person. There's no way you can act to change that behavior. There is nothing anyone in the orbit of Kouri can do once they are no longer useful to her to have her behave any differently. Kouri's going to take care of Kouri. If you're useful, it's going to be great to her. If you're not, then it's gone. And you can't change it. And no amount of what did I do or can I just or maybe if is going to change it. Because it's not about you. Which is really hard too. It's not about you. And it's really hard when it impacts you so much to separate, especially when it happens when you're a kid. Because kids just try to navigate survival. And as a kid, it feels like if I could just, then it would be different, and it won't be. Which is really hard. And it's hard to learn it as an adult. It's hard to look back on it as an adult. It's hard to look back on it and be like, there was nothing I could have done. Nothing you can do to make it worse. Nothing you can do to make it better. It's about the other person. But especially kids try to navigate how to make it better. Because of course you do. Like, of course you do. But Kouri's going to do what Kouri's going to do, regardless of how it impacts anyone else. And there are many, many like that. And if they have impacted your life, I am sorry. Because it is really hard. But it's not you. And it's really hard when it feels like it's you and when the other person tells you that it's you. And when the things you do, they say is what's causing the thing, it's not true, it's them. So it doesn't matter what you do. You have to protect you. They're going to take care of them. Very much like the Boone case, for sure. Spooky Gaming said, Kouri and I have the same birthday. Yay. I mean, you're never going to forget. You're never going to forget the 420. Oh, Law Nerds, hugs. Hugs to all of you. And that's why we bring it up when we see these cases. Because we're not just looking at patterns of behavior that impact Kouri's life and her kids. It's stuff that's impacted you too. And it's hard. Tara Jane, I love a 420 anniversary. Love it. A lot of you noted that 420 is associated with cannabis due to a 1970s San Rafael, California high school group known as the Waldos, who used the term to coordinate meeting at 420 to search for an abandoned crop. That sounds very California to go searching for the weed in the weeds. Also, is that where Where's Waldo came from? Logical question. Logical question. Just want to know. So, Kouri. Melissa says she forgot to turn in the deed because she got high. Yep. I was going to fix your house. Then I got high. I was going to pay my debts too. Then I got high. No, she wasn't. She wasn't ever going to pay her debts. No amount of catchy music is going to make that true. Kouri wasn't going to pay those debts. That wasn't happening at all. Y'all know that's true. We're in other people's painters. What's Docket 214 in this case? I don't have Docket 214 in all of the other cases. I should go look. I don't have them because I should go look for sure. It's good to see you on a live for all of you who are just catching a live. It's been a minute. Look, we've been in trial for a minute too. And I understand popping in and out of the different trials because some trials can be really triggering. True. Absolutely true. It's going to be a minute before we pop into another live trial just because of timing. But we've got plenty to catch up on. Don't worry. And we've got some hearings we'll catch up on too. Trying to go through some questions and make sure I get them. But does Kouri have all the large cookies like Banfield does along with her friends? I think Kouri probably has gummies for the birthday or maybe edibles, but not big cookies. We're going to get to big cookies. Don't you worry. I've got plans for Law Nerd Cookie Day for sure. Question. Does Kouri's mom have to pay back the money she received from Kouri and the life insurance? Maybe, because we see the estate trying to claw back funds. If they can trace Kouri distributing assets to her mom, they might be able to claw those back a bit, for sure. Melanie said something about the Kouri Darden money cases stressed me out. Oh, they stressed me out too, especially when I'm like, wait, I thought I had this figured out last night. I guess I don't. I am very confused. I'm so angry for the rest of the Richins family. Same. It's really hard to not be able to do anything and to sit here and go, what are you doing? Just make different choices. Happy people just don't kill their husband. What are we doing? Stop it. And then watching the additional impact, because the kids are already going to be impacted by all of this. But then the additional insults on top of that, it's not that money will ever make it better, but it just adds a level of outrage to what the fuck are you even doing? It really does. It's hard to watch. Sure. Alan said, is not pledging money related to laundering money in the washer? Yes and no. Yes and no. Doctor Who said, now that Kouri has been convicted of killing her husband, is this the point where she will have to go back to using her maiden name? I don't know if they can force her to do that. It would be interesting to see if she does, but I don't know if they can make her. Allie said, my sister, Ashley, and I adore you. Thank you for giving us this channel. Thank you for being here, Allie and Ashley. And I'm glad. I hope you get to chat with each other in the chat. It's perfect. Nurse of Interest, thank you for the gifted memberships. I appreciate it with the new members. Text Forever 1823 said, early 90s house party. I'm looking back and forth between some guys in the room and a poster on the wall. One of them says, yeah, me, cool. Him, thanks. Slayer poster is gone next time I walk in the room. The Slayer poster was probably pretty rad. Ellie, we did talk about the judges in Summit County handling both criminal and civil. I'm really glad that the judge has both. I think it's going to be helpful. Lulabelle said, so the bar is generalized. Yes. As in there aren't separate bars for specials or specialties. No. How do you qualify in your specific area? Well, you can be, and this varies greatly by jurisdiction, that you can become a specialist in an area and say, I'm specialized in this area. It normally involves a certain amount of trials, a certain amount of work in that area, recommendations from others in that area. So you can become like a certified specialist in a certain area. A lot of lawyers don't, some lawyers do. But yes, the bar is general. You can take the bar, become an ESQ, put up a website and start taking clients. There's not a lot beyond that. Yes, there's duties you are supposed to adhere to, but we all watched Ron, didn't we? So finding a lawyer that has a good amount of experience can be difficult, and navigating how to find a lawyer can be difficult. One of the better ways, if it is an option, is to find a lawyer that practices in that area and ask them for a recommendation and who they would refer to. So if you know a criminal defense attorney that doesn't quite do this, be like, who do you know that you would trust with your case? Because otherwise it's really difficult. But yes, the bar is generalized. You can specialize. It's more common in some jurisdictions than others to do that. And it just depends. We saw that with some of the attorneys, or at least one of the attorney witnesses in the Adelson case talked about being a bar specialized attorney in, I believe it was a family law there. And we talked about that during the Adelson trial. She talked about becoming a certified specialist in that area. So yes, it's possible. Not everybody does it. And just because somebody hasn't done it, doesn't mean they aren't very qualified in that practice area, but it also depends on the jurisdiction. So someone who is certified in a specialty area has gone through above and beyond certification. That's not just a pay to play thing, like some of the other lawyer awards that you may see can be very pay to play. Not all, but some, like any industry. Emily, how do you mean? Well, we still get hit up for like, hey, would you like to have a Webby? Would you like a Webby in these categories? Are you sure? Would you like to pay us hundreds and hundreds of dollars to apply for a Webby? Would you like to apply in these categories? We have more categories for you. We have more Webby for you. Oh, and then there's a million of them that are basically the same. Would you like to be considered? Please pay us the application fee. And the application fees they vary based on thing, but some of them are ridiculous. There is a podcasting category. Would you like to apply? No, I don't want to pay to apply. You have to apply and you have to pay. For many things, not just the Webbies. The Webbies came top of mind because their emails are unending. So yes, there's an application fee. Oh yeah, you have to apply, and yes, there's a fee. And then you get a discount if you apply in more categories. And then you get emails. Hey, you didn't apply in this category. Do you want to apply in this category? What about this category? What about that category? For every award you can imagine, all of them have an application process. All of them. Would you like to do this? No, I'm serious. Yep. All of them. And then they keep creating more awards. And so then it's like, hey, but what about this award? This one's kind of like this. Hey, but what about this award? This one's kind of like that. So many of them. Hey, would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? But you have to apply and you have to pay the category fees. I forget how much they are. They're in the hundreds of dollars per category. All of them. Oh, I'll keep telling you. Because it's the same. It's more expensive with the Academy Awards, the Emmys. I don't know about the Grammys as much, but the Emmys, when they added their podcast category, I believe it was discounted the first year to apply to be a podcast Emmy. But in the realm of the Emmys and like the Academy Awards, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. And generally the studios pay for that. And then they run campaigns to see who's going to win. Yeah. I don't want to do that. So I don't do that. Because I just like, why would we pay for that? It just seems, I guess it matters to some. It doesn't matter a lot to me because I like being here with y'all. But it's just, there's a lot of times where it's like, okay, well, if you want to play, you have to do this. And I immediately go, ew, why would I do that? Would you like to do this? No, I wouldn't. I would very much like to not play. So I just don't play because I don't care. Are you lifting the veil here, EDB? I mean, it's on like their website and stuff. I don't think so, but we'll talk about it because it's just, some of it is just silly. I hear George, which means Travis is home. Hey, buddy. Hi, George. Hey, T. How you doing? We're just wrapping up and saying goodbye. Perfect timing. Good to see you, bud. George is happy to have you home. Mm-hmm. Hi, George. Do you want to say hi to the Lawnards, buddy? That's a very good hello. Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's a very good hello. How was your day?
Very good.
Good.
Okay.
Good to see you.
I'll say more whenever.
Oh, he's like, we'll save the rest for after streaming. I'm just saying goodbye. We were just wrapping up. Yeah. Yep. So I'll be right there. Good to see you, buddy. All right, Lawnards. We're gonna go chat with T, see what's up. Do the worky things. I didn't mean to like pull off the veil of all the things, but it's stuff that I was not aware of either. And the more that we learn, the more I'm just like, yeah, we're just good here doing our thing. We're just gonna do this. We're just gonna do this. I saw a few of you ask, when does your kiddo graduate? Next month. Next month. We're fine. It's fine. It's all fine. I'm totally fine. It's fine. We're fine. It's all going to be fine. Yeah, George is going to be sad when Travis leaves. I will say with all of the talk of the awards and all of the things, again, it's stuff I'm learning too, right? I spent my career in the district attorney's office and then into consulting and other types of legal work, and then into talking about this, and then this grew. There was never if we do this, then this will happen. It was oh, I want to do this. Oh, then this happened. Okay, let's keep doing this and then figure it out from there. It was responsive. And so how all of that worked is something I've had to ask a lot of questions about of people that know that better than I do. I can talk a lot about how the TA's office works. I can talk about how cases work. I can talk about how trials work. But the inner workings of the rest of it, nope, it wasn't on my radar. And now it is. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I just share with you because I find it curious. And again, it matters to some. And I'm sure to, networks or whatever, they're like, we have this many podcasts on our network that have won this many awards. Great. Woohoo. I have, a podcast on YouTube and a channel on YouTube. under our own umbrella. We just do this with the law nerds. You can have your awards. We have the law nerds, which is perfect. I don't know why it came up. Oh, because of the lawyer awards. Right. Because in the lawyer awards, different than the certification, you get all these, would you like to be considered for this? Here's your application fee. And it's just like, ugh, what? So it was kind of wild to see that the lawyer awards that you can just like do whatever with, a lot of them are application fee and not we've heard this great work or we've seen you do this amazing work. But it matters. It's all part of, honestly, it's all just part of advertising. And so it's just a big circle of advertising. I think it'll probably change. I don't know if it will matter as much. Things like the YouTube podcasting charts are based on watch time. So things like the YouTube, when you see where stuff is on the YouTube charts, that's based on watch time. There's nothing you can do with that. Some of the other podcast charts are hand selected. So that's a little bit different. But again, those all become tools of marketing. Our marketing goes something like this. Shit, I didn't ask anyone to like the video all week. Can we like the video? Don't forget to do that. Get the Law Nerd app and we'll see you back here talking about law. That's basically how that goes because I don't have the bandwidth for the rest of it and I don't like fakery. So I just don't. I mean, maybe that's on me. Maybe it's a detriment. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. It's just me. It feels weird. It's like, I don't know. It just feels weird to me. So we're just going to keep doing our things and just hang out together talking about the law, which we're going to do next week. As a reminder, because I forget, like the video, get the Law Nerd app, which feels like an award to me. Like the Law Nerds in the Law Nerd app is honestly the highest order compliment that you guys want to stay in the loop with what we're doing here and what we're covering next and when we're covering it. That is so much more valuable to me than anything else, truly. You guys being here with me, hanging out in the chat, being in the app, that means everything to me. So we've just built our cool little community and we get to just keep popping along. I am not doing a podcast because I generally record them over the weekend. So for those of you that are going to look for, hey, podcast, I am spending the weekend with the family. We've got some family plans. So no podcast this weekend, no podcast Monday. Podcast will be back the following week. I will be back next week. We have court to cover. We have, we've got more Kouri Richins deep dive to cover once I can sit down with my brain and try to sort it out. We've got all these other things to cover that I want to deep dive. And I just, while in trial, have not had time to grab all those documents. And now that we're on the tail end of winter guard season, I have a little bit more time, which is A, lovely, and B, awful. It's all the rest. I was just like, no. Ugh. But it's good. So this weekend, I hope you have the chance to spend time with family, whether you celebrate Easter or not, and have that time to reconnect. I know that I can use the downtime. I hope that you enjoy the time. I hope the weather is lovely and maybe we'll find some Kit Kat bars. Who knows? We'll give it a try. I'm fascinated. So we'll give it a try. Law Nerds, you're the best. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for being a Law Nerd. Take care of yourselves. Big hugs. May your coffee be delightful. May you have a wonderful weekend. May your weather be delicious. And I will see you soon. All right. I'll see you next week, guys. Bye. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you don't miss a live stream or any of the updates on the cases that you care about most with the Law Nerd app at lawnerdapp.com. It's a free download on iOS and Android so I can keep you in the loop because you never know when something's going to pop off. Thanks for being here and thanks for being a Law Nerd.